Imagine standing at the base of a grand spiral staircase, its steps winding upward, pulling your gaze toward the glow of light above. Each step embodies a thought, a decision spiraling around the core structure guiding your path. As you ascend, the air becomes lighter, the world brighter. Clarity sharpens your senses, bringing vivid detail to life. The vibrant colors, the melodies in the air, the sense of purpose in each step. Yet, with each downward step, chaos beckons. A gravitational pull drags you into shadows. The walls close in, doubt whispers insidiously, and the echoes of negative thoughts thunder through the hollow core of the staircase. It's overwhelming, a disorienting descent into confusion where clarity fades into an elusive memory. Confronting your thoughts is akin to facing gravity itself. The pull of negativity can feel inescapable, as though your mind is caged by its own spiraling descent. But within this chaos lies a choice, a simple, profound choice. At any moment, you can decide to pause, turn around, and climb upward toward light and clarity. It is this choice, this power to shift the direction of your thoughts, that defines your journey. A story of transformation, Emily's spiral. Emily sat in her favorite cafe, a steaming cup of chai in her hands, staring blankly at walls adorned with vibrant art. Around her, the chatter of customers faded into white noise as her mind spiraled deeper into a relentless loop of negativity. "I'm not enough," the refrain echoed, amplifying her insecurities and silencing any glimmers of hope. Every joyful laugh from nearby tables, every celebration, felt like a cruel reminder of her own perceived inadequacy. One day, while lost in her thoughts, Emily noticed a small reading group gathered at the back of the cafe. Their animated discussions piqued her curiosity, momentarily dimming the darkness clouding her mind. Summoning every ounce of courage, she approached them and found herself drawn into a world of ideas, shared struggles, and new perspectives. They spoke of mindfulness, of embracing one's thoughts without judgment, and the power of self-acceptance. Emily began integrating these principles into her life. Each day, she set aside moments to sit with her thoughts, to acknowledge their presence without letting them consume her. Slowly, the refrain, "I'm not enough," lost its grip, replaced by affirmations of her worth. She started a gratitude journal, noting 3 things she appreciated about herself each evening. This practice, though challenging at first, became her lifeline, a deliberate step up the spiral staircase of her mind. One night, as she reviewed her journal, Emily realized the transformation was not just in her thoughts, but in her actions. She had reached out to others, joined meaningful conversations, and even shared her vulnerabilities. Her negative thought loop, once a deafening echo, had softened into a melody of growth and self-discovery. Looking into the mirror, she whispered, "I am enough." In that moment, Emily understood that the journey upward never truly ends, but her direction had irrevocably changed. The purpose of this book. Written by Mindful Literary, this book is your guide to understanding and transforming your thought spiral. Our thoughts are the architects of our reality. They shape how we perceive ourselves and the world, how we respond to challenges, and how we pursue our goals. The connection between thoughts, emotions, and actions forms the foundation of every experience we have. Yet we often underestimate the power of this connection and the impact of the quality of our thinking on the trajectory of our lives. Imagine standing at a crossroads. One path is familiar, yet filled with doubt and negativity, a road paved by past fears and defeats. The other path is overgrown, uncertain, yet alive with possibility. Your thoughts determine which path you take. Will you allow yourself to spiral downward, tethered to old limitations, or will you cultivate thoughts of hope and courage, inspiring bold actions toward a brighter future? Through stories, analogies, and practical insights, this book explores how the quality of your thoughts influences your emotions and actions. You'll learn how to break free from destructive cycles, nurture high-quality thoughts, and ascend toward your highest potential. Transformation doesn't require monumental leaps. It begins with the simple act of becoming aware of your thoughts and choosing to shift their direction. Together, we'll confront limiting beliefs, uncover profound truths, and discover the power of intentional thinking to shape a life filled with clarity, purpose, and joy. Let's take the first step upward together. Chapter 1. The Nature of Thoughts. Thoughts as seeds. What you plant, you reap. Each thought I nurture is like a seed, quietly nestled within the fertile soil of my consciousness. Roots reach deep into my psyche, drawing nutrients from the past while branching out into the present and future. I often ponder the weight of this analogy. What kind of garden am I cultivating? Are these seeds blossoming into radiant sunflowers of hope and positivity, or are they festering into weeds of doubt and despair? The choice lies solely in what I choose to plant. With every moment that passes, I have the power to decide. A thought of gratitude can ignite an explosion of warmth, fueling my spirit as it undertakes small, everyday tasks with a newfound energy. Conversely, allowing a fleeting moment of negativity to take root can transform my day into a battle against an invisible foe. Emily, a close friend, once shared her journey through this landscape. Trapped within the suffocating grasp of self-doubt, she finally recognized the importance of pulling those weeds. By nurturing a mindset of self-acceptance and mindfulness, she turned the tide toward flourishing abundance. Yet, the landscape of the mind can be treacherous. How easily we forget that thoughts, like seeds, require tending. Week after week, I witnessed my internal dialogue set the tone for my emotional weather. Navigating through those moments was an emotional dance, some days uplifting, others a forlorn waltz into darkness. The momentum builds, and I find myself wrestling with thoughts that want to linger long after their welcome has expired. The key lies in awareness, recognizing that while I might be the gardener, I must also be vigilant against the cunning, creeping shadows of negative thoughts that threaten to eclipse the vibrant blooms of positivity I strive to cultivate. As the stakes rise, I begin to grasp the deeper implications of my choices. What if every thought truly did hold that kind of power? A thought of resentment might sprout into a lingering distrust of those around me, affecting my relationships, while a thought of kindness can create bonds and forge connections that uplift and inspire. The more I engage in this mental gardening, the clearer it becomes. I can choose to plant seeds of resilience and hope, or allow the thorns of fear and worry to overtake my garden. Every encounter can be viewed through this lens of growth. I remember a conversation with a stranger, where an innocuous exchange morphed into a profound reflection on our shared human experience. In that moment, hope was planted once again, anchoring itself deep within me. The tension builds as I realize that each day I step outside, I enter a great unknown, a field ripe for harvesting, where my thoughts can transform reality. But what happens when I let the weeds of anxiety and despair spread, unchecked? As I grapple with this question, I can feel the urgency to tend to my garden, reminding myself that what I choose to plant is ultimately what I will reap. How thoughts create emotions, the mind-body connection. Have you ever noticed how one fleeting thought can shift your entire emotional landscape? It's a phenomenon I experienced vividly one late afternoon, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper secrets of introspection. Sitting in my cozy living room, my mind began to wander. I found myself remembering a time of disappointment, and as I did, a familiar weight settled upon my chest. In those moments, I realized how profoundly intertwined our thoughts and emotions truly are, forming an intricate dance that governs our well-being. Let's delve deeper into this connection. Science tells us that our thoughts possess an electric charge, triggering various brain chemicals that sculpt our emotional responses. When I think about a time I succeeded, a rush of dopamine floods my system, illuminating my mind like sunlight breaking through a gloomy sky. However, shift the narrative to moments of failure, perhaps a job I didn't get or a goal I missed, and suddenly, cortisol crashes the party, darkening my mood and clouding my perspective. This constant interplay, thoughts triggering emotions, emotions shaping thoughts, creates a feedback loop. It's as if we are riding a roller coaster, where each ascent is powered by positive thought and each descent fueled by negativity. This cycle can be both nurturing and punishing, depending on which direction we allow our minds to take. I remember feeling anxious before an important presentation. I silently rehearsed negative scenarios, envisioning my audience yawning or outright dismissing me. As those thoughts spiraled, my heart raced, and physical symptoms of anxiety set in, a knot in my stomach and clammy palms. I realized then that my mental landscape dictated my emotional reality, shaping not just how I felt, but how I acted. Would I perform poorly because I believed I would? Or could I shift my mindset, embracing the possibility of success? Understanding this mind-body connection becomes essential in navigating life's challenges, emphasizing the need to nurture our thoughts as we would a fragile seed. As I began to explore this concept more deeply, I became aware of the power of self-awareness. It was not just about recognizing that my thoughts influenced my emotions, but also about understanding that I held the reins. Could I, through sheer intention, rewire these automatic responses? Each time a negative thought emerged, I practiced replacing it with a positive affirmation. This shift in focus wasn't always easy. It required persistent effort, but with each passing day, I noticed a subtle yet powerful transformation. I began to cultivate a profound awareness of my internal dialogues, intentionally choosing the narratives I wanted to live by. Imagine standing at the crossroads of thought and emotion, realizing that, at any moment, you possess the ability to choose which path to follow. But the tension builds as I ponder a haunting question. What happens when we become unaware, when life's distractions drown out our inner voice? It strikes me that many of us navigate through life on autopilot, allowing the currents of external pressures and negativity to steer us. The mind-body connection, when neglected, can lead to a spiral of despair. The stakes, it seems, are higher than we often realize. As I sit in contemplation, the urgency to remain vigilant swells within me. The battle against negative thought patterns can feel daunting, but knowing we can reshape our emotional landscape through conscious thought inspires hope. Perhaps the key isn't in eliminating negative thoughts entirely, but rather mastering the art of response. When we own our narratives, we turn the tide, reclaiming our agency in this intricate dance of the mind and body. Stepping forward, I grasp the undeniable truth. We must be the authors of our experiences, not mere spectators. The feedback loop, how emotions reinforce thoughts. Emotions are the echo of our thoughts, resonating through the very fabric of our daily lives. I often found myself ensnared in a cycle, and it took time for me to grasp just how profound this connection truly was. The thoughts we entertain don't merely float away. They elicit feelings that feed back into our mental landscape, shaping new thoughts born from the ones that came before. This ongoing conversation between emotion and thought often has the power to either elevate us or drag us into the abyss. Picture a moment of anxiety. It begins with a single thought. What if I mess this up? Instantly, a wave of dread surges within me. That dread not only reinforces the original thought but expands it, morphing it into a suffocating cloud of "I'm not good enough, I'll fail," and a siren song of self-doubt ringing ever louder. I realize now that my emotions had woven a tapestry of fear, each thread interlaced with echoes of previous worries. And just as my trepidation swelled, so too did my belief that I was destined to falter. It is within this intricate feedback loop that we must navigate the treacherous waters of our minds. I became acutely aware that in those moments of despair, I was not merely reacting to an external situation. I was perpetuating an internal cycle fueled by my own thoughts. Emotions, it turns out, can either serve as a mirror reflecting our true potential or a darkened lens through which we view ourselves, distorting our perception. The less I became aware of this cycle, the more entrenched I became in my fears, reinforcing my own negative self-narratives. Breaking free felt impossible, as if I were trying to climb out of quicksand while fighting against my own thoughts and feelings. Yet, I learned that it all began with awareness. By acknowledging the emotions that surfaced, I confronted the hum of negativity swirling around my head. As I took a step back and examined this complex interplay, I caught glimpses of hope in the spaces between my fearful thoughts and the heavy emotions they generated. This subtle shift in perception opened new possibilities in smaller, yet more frequent moments of liberation from the storm I had unwittingly created. Gradually, I recognized that within this loop, there lay the seeds of transformation. Each time I felt a negative emotion rise, I practiced identifying the originating thought with compassion rather than judgment. I could choose to alter the narrative, to nourish a more forgiving thought rather than a punishing one. And with this choice came the delicate yet powerful emergence of positive emotions, which in turn began to fertilize new thoughts, sparking an upward spiral, a tale of resilience replacing despair. People who unknowingly let negative thoughts spiral into destructive habits. Mark never thought of himself as a negative person. He was the kind of guy who believed in the power of positive thinking, often quoting motivational speakers and sharing uplifting anecdotes with his friends. Yet, as he delved deeper into the rhythm of his daily life, he began to notice a disquieting pattern. His mind frequently circled back to worry and doubt, transforming what had once been innocent thoughts into nagging shadows that plagued his every decision. It started with trivial concerns. What if he didn't perform well at work? Or what if his friends stopped inviting him out? But soon, these harmless musings morphed into crippling fears. Mark found himself obsessively checking his emails late at night, wrestling with self-doubt that kept him awake as he replayed conversations over and over, dissecting every word for potential offense or misjudgment. With every negative thought that went unchecked, he spiraled deeper, transforming uncertainty into anxiety, and finally into a cycle of self-sabotage. One evening, the culmination of his thoughts strayed too far from reality. A simple rejection from a colleague felt like the end of the world. Instead of confronting the situation, he retreated into familiar habits of isolation, abandoning gym sessions, skipping social outings, and losing himself in late-night binges of television and junk food. Each choice fed a toxic cycle, where negativity summoned more negativity, a downward spiral he seemed powerless to break. It wasn't until he stumbled upon an old photograph of himself, vibrant and full of life, that the painful realization hit him. How had he let his thoughts twist reality so completely? An ember of determination ignited within him, sparking a journey to reclaim his mind, a journey that would demand relentless work and self-reflection. Mark's story serves as a crucial reminder of how easily the mind can slip into destructive narratives, blurring the lines of truth and perception. He began to examine the thoughts that clung to him, unveiling their patterns and recognizing their roots. The work was grueling, requiring him to confront uncomfortable truths about his beliefs and fears. But with each acknowledgement, he found himself taking the first steps out of the shadows, ready to challenge the stories he had told himself for far too long. Yet, just as he started to find his way, the question loomed large. Would the grip of his past beliefs allow him to reclaim the life that awaited him? Chapter 2. The Downward Spiral. The Pull of Negativity Bias. Why Negative Thoughts Stick. It's astonishing to consider the weight that negative thoughts carry. They cling to our minds with an unyielding grip, often obscuring the light of positivity that, if only we allowed it, could burst forth in all its brilliance. In a world where the trivialities of daily life can wash away our fleeting positive interactions, the deep-seated truth remains. Our mind is wired to prioritize the negative. This phenomenon is known as negativity bias, and it has a profound effect on how we view ourselves and the world around us. Imagine receiving a compliment that leaves you with a warm glow. Perhaps someone praises your work or acknowledges your kindness. That moment feels golden, fleeting, yet so vibrant. Now juxtapose that with a biting criticism aimed at your efforts. Suddenly, the compliment is eclipsed, forgotten in the shadow of that harsh remark. It's not that you wish to dwell on negativity, but the mind's tendency to recall adverse experiences burrows deep, often empowering the critical voices to overshadow the positive. As I pondered the intricacies of this mental quagmire, I recalled a particularly turbulent period in my life. It was during college, surrounded by bright minds and fierce competition, where every mistake felt magnified. One slip of the tongue in a classroom discussion would deepen my insecurities, while glowing feedback seemed elusive. I fell into a spiral where every perceived failure anchored my self-worth. It took years of resistance against this insidious negativity bias to unearth the power of positivity hidden beneath the layers of self-doubt. Yet, understanding negativity bias is just the beginning. Recognizing its pull is essential in the arduous journey of reclaiming our mental landscape. Negative thoughts may stick, but like stubborn stains, they can be expunged. Armed with awareness, we can actively choose what we nourish within our minds. The journey doesn't lie in dismissing negative experiences, but rather in balancing them. Every dark cloud can give way to sunlight if we leverage our inherent resilience. Move beyond the gravity of negativity. Embrace the possibility of an upward spiral forged by intentional thought transformation. The emotional weight of poor quality thoughts, fear, shame, anger. There's an undeniable heaviness that comes with poor quality thoughts, like bricks piling up in a backpack we can't seem to set down. Fear, shame, and anger drag us deeper into shadows, wrapping around our minds like fog, obscuring clarity and weakening resolve. I've felt it numerous times. That suffocating sensation that constricts my chest, whispers self-doubt, and amplifies the volume of a nagging inner critic. In those moments, the world feels insurmountable and perspectives gray, muting the vibrancy of possibilities that exist beyond my horizon. Fear, that relentless ghost, often lurks in the corners of my mind, waiting for the most opportune moment to jump out and paralyze me with uncertainty. I recall an instance at work when fear of failure gnawed at my confidence like an insidious parasite. Each time I was asked to present my ideas, a wave of anxiety washed over me, threatening to drown my voice. What if they didn't like my approach? What if I stumbled over my words? These fears coiled around my thoughts, rendering me mute and motionless, a spectator to my own potential. In these turbulent moments, I realized how fear thrived in the shadows, easily spreading its tendrils into my emotions, turning anticipation into dread. Then came shame, a cruel teacher that casts a long shadow over self-acceptance. I've held onto the weight of shame like a tight-fitted straitjacket, squeezing the life out of my spirit. It kept me from embracing my flaws, as if they were blemishes too damning to bear. Each perceived failure dug the nails of shame deeper into my psyche, a constant reminder of inadequacy. When I look back, I see those lost opportunities where shame stole my voice, silencing any chance of vulnerability. A heart captured in a cage of self-loathing, unable to express itself, unable to connect. Anger, too, has had its reign over me, tempestuous and blinding. Its flames can quickly ignite the smallest spark into a raging inferno, consuming every ounce of reason. I remember an argument with a close friend, where anger took the lead, fueling unkind words that sliced like knives. It was only later, when the smoke cleared, that I recognized anger as a mask for deeper hurt, for the fear of losing that friendship, for the shame of not articulating my emotions clearly. It left scars, reminding me that unchecked anger often spirals into regret, a reminder of the damage poor quality thoughts can wreak on our relationships and well-being. As I navigate through these emotions, I understand the emotional weight they carry. They tether me to past mistakes and unrealized fears, pulling me into a spiral that feels increasingly difficult to escape. The darker it gets, the more I find myself questioning my worth, lost in a cycle of negativity that can seem so all-consuming. Each day presents a choice. Do I allow these thoughts to imprison me, rendering me powerless? Or do I muster the strength to confront and work through them, to transform those heavy bricks into stepping stones towards clarity and growth? The answer lies in rediscovering my voice, deciding that I will not be defined by fear, shame, or anger, but rather, I will rise above them, one thought at a time. Stories of descent: how negative thoughts lead to poor decisions. The weight of negativity often feels like an anchor, dragging you into murky depths where clarity is lost. Jason was aware of this weight, yet he found himself immersed in a thick fog of self-doubt and fear. It was hard to pinpoint when it began, but he often felt as if he were standing on a cliff's edge, peering into an abyss that promised only despair. The initial seed of negativity manifested during a tough project at work, a project he had felt confident about at first. But a series of minor setbacks spiraled swiftly into a daunting narrative of failure. Each misstep compounded his anxious thoughts, leading him down a rabbit hole where hope faded and anxiety thrived. Jason's thoughts became a vicious loop. You'll never get it right. Everyone is counting on you. You're going to lose your job. Each statement was steeped in fear, echoing in his mind like a relentless drumbeat pushing him closer to the edge. Decisions born of this mental chaos reflected his inability to focus. He missed deadlines, delivered subpar work, and alienated colleagues with his increasingly erratic behavior. What began as a simple issue grew into something that threatened not just his career, but his entire sense of self-worth. One evening, while staring blankly at his computer screen, it hit him like a sudden gust of wind. He was letting his thoughts dictate his actions. Yet another deadline loomed, and instead of taking proactive steps to salvage the situation, he succumbed to despair. Each moment he neglected to act reinforced his spiraling descent, pushing him further toward a decision that would define his path. He thought about quitting, about running away from the mess he'd created. The ease of walking away danced temptingly before him, but just as he was about to succumb entirely to that whisper of escape, a flicker of resolve resonated deep within him. Perhaps this was the moment to confront the inner chaos rather than retreat from it. But would he seize the opportunity, or would the weight of his negative thoughts continue to pull him down? Thoughts as gravity. When you let go, you spiral downward faster than you think. It's a strange paradox, isn't it? The weight of a fleeting thought can root itself in the core of our being, like an invisible anchor dragging us deeper into the abyss if we don't hold on tight. Thoughts are not mere chemicals sparking in the brain. They are the gravity that shapes our lives. Once released, they spiral downward with relentless speed, often taking us places we never intended to go. Consider the moment you catch yourself ruminating. A simple failure at work burgeons into a grand accusation of inadequacy. What began as reflective thought soon morphs into a gravity well, consuming every shred of positivity. I felt it the day I received criticism. It started as a faint whisper. Maybe they are right? Gradually, that whisper became a roar, drowning out the encouraging voices echoing in my mind. I was caught in the crosshairs of my own negativity bias, and each letting go of a positive thought made the descent exponentially faster. Falling into that spiral can feel surreal, like free falling into a void with nothing but bleak feelings swirling around. As I encountered my own tumultuous descent, moments erupted in flashes of urgency. The harder I tried to fight it, the more I lost grasp of the solid ground beneath me. Like an object in free fall, I realized, we cannot just let go of our good thoughts without consequence. We must encapsulate them, nurture them, for in their absence, we allow the gravity of negativity to take hold. I learned that the spiral can indeed be broken, but only by intent, by holding on fiercely to thoughts that lift, even as everything else seems to conspire against us. But here lies the truth. Grappling with thoughts is not a battle fought in silence. It involves the courage to question the weight of beliefs we hold dear, to recognize the storm brewing within us, and to seize the reins before we are spiraled into oblivion. Each moment of worry drags down our spirits, urging us to give in. Yet, beneath the tempestuous surface lies the secret. Awareness is the key to navigating the gravity of our thoughts. Every time I felt myself slipping, I discovered an unsettling clarity. It gnawed at me, whispering that I was not alone. This realization forged a blazing path through the chaos. It urged me to gather my thoughts, to observe the spiral from a distance, to understand it. I could harness that energy, redirect it into a lifeline. And in that fleeting moment of awareness, I found the strength to counteract the weight pulling me under. For true liberation lies not in letting go, but in understanding how to stabilize the very gravitational force that seeks to imprison us. Chapter 3. The Upward Spiral. The Power of High-Quality Thoughts, Gratitude, Vision, and Hope. The mind, when cultivated with high-quality thoughts, becomes a formidable ally. Gratitude, a seemingly simple practice, has the power to illuminate the darkest corners of our consciousness. When I began to consciously express gratitude every day, I noticed small shifts in my perspective. It was as though a dimmer switch was turned up, allowing light to flood into previously shadowed areas of my life. Each acknowledgement of goodness, no matter how minuscule, became a thread weaving together a tapestry of joy and appreciation. Vision, too, weaves its own magic into the fabric of our existence. When I dared to imagine a future infused with possibilities, a roadmap began to unfold before my mind's eye. This vision ignited a spark of hope, a flickering flame that could grow into a roaring fire with nurturing and belief. The distinction between merely existing and truly living became starkly clear as I allowed my thoughts to venture beyond the confines of my present reality. As the threads of gratitude, vision, and hope entwined in my mind, I could feel the upward spiral taking shape. Each practice reinforced the other, creating a powerful feedback loop that propelled me upward. It wasn't just a fleeting wave of positivity. It was a seismic shift that announced its presence in my life. Yet, just as the spiral began to ascend, the specter of doubt whispered insidiously in my ear. Thoughts of inadequacy and fear clawed at the edges of my newfound clarity, threatening to unravel everything I had built. But I chose not to succumb. Instead, I embraced the tension as a necessary step in the dance of growth. In truth, the ascent to high-quality thoughts requires effort, much like a springboard. One must press down to launch upward. I braced myself against the weight of negativity, fueling my journey with the energy of my intent. Each moment spent cultivating gratitude, crafting my vision, and daring to hope built a reservoir of resilience within me. I could feel the upward spiral gaining velocity, and with it, a sense of urgency grew, compelling me toward a transformation that felt imminent. Yet, as I kicked off from that metaphorical springboard, I realized the true test was not merely in ascending, but in holding onto the momentum of my thoughts as I soared into the unknown. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, and the specter of despair lingered just out of reach, watching, waiting for a moment of vulnerability. I grappled with the idea that the power of high-quality thoughts could only take me so far without steadfast action. Would I be able to sustain this upward trajectory in the face of inevitable challenges? Keeping my thoughts high quality was a choice I could make every day. But what if the weight of doubt threw me into freefall? How positive emotions feed positive actions. As I reflect on my journey, I am struck by the realization that positive emotions act as the sunlight, nourishing the seeds of our potential. Every moment of gratitude, every spark of joy, every flicker of hope seems to set off a chain reaction that reaches far beyond the ripple of my own heart. It's a beautiful paradox. The more I allow myself to feel uplifted, the more it propels me into action that reflects that positivity. Take, for instance, the simple act of gratitude. When I consciously acknowledge the good in my life, I not only feel lighter but also compelled to reach out, to bring a smile, share my appreciation, or even help someone in need. This might seem trivial, but it builds momentum. Just one small action can send shockwaves through my psyche, urging me to act again, to elevate those around me. It's as if each positive emotion acts like a pebbled path, leading me from one heartfelt action to the next, building an upward spiral of positivity. It's fascinating how positivity interweaves with every aspect of life. I remember a time when I was engulfed in negativity, each day feeling heavier than the last. A chance encounter with a woman who radiated joy and gratitude sparked something in me. She was contagious, not in the way one might catch a cold, but like the warmth of an unexpected sunbeam breaking through a dreary winter. Her laughter was a powerful reminder of how actions fueled by positive emotions can reverse the cycle of despair. It was my lightbulb moment. To transform my emotional energy into action, to let each small wave of positivity push me towards doing something meaningful. And suddenly, the world around me began to mirror this new inner landscape. Then there came a day, a crisp morning where everything felt possible. I chose to embody that feeling of hope. I stepped out into the world, filled with an urgency to create, to inspire, and to lift others as I rose. Each little act of kindness reinforced not just my upward spiral, but that of those around me. By smiling at a stranger, volunteering at the local shelter, or simply offering a listening ear, I witnessed firsthand how my actions fed back into my thoughts, creating a harmonious loop of positivity. I could feel the energy shift, not just within the interactions I shared, but in the spaces between us. It was as if we were all contributing to an invisible tapestry woven from empathic threads of kindness. But with every upward movement comes resistance. At times, self-doubt and fear would creep in, threatening to derail my newfound momentum. In those fleeting moments, I would recall the lessons learned, the fundamental truth that my thoughts and emotions were intertwined in a reciprocal dance. Temptations to slip back into negativity were always lurking, whispering that my efforts were inconsequential, that joy was a fleeting indulgence. Yet, in those instances, I would remind myself of the ripple effect I had begun to create, to halt my descent and instead lean into that urgency of positive action. This tension would often mark the turning point for me, as I realized the act of choosing to act positively, even when it felt uncomfortable, was where true transformation happened. It was in those moments that I understood this deeply. To nourish my upward spiral, I had to courageously embrace the transformative power of positive emotion. As I stand here, through the lens of my experiences, I recognize the beauty of this coalescent journey. How positive emotions feed positive actions and, in turn, generate an insatiable loop, lifting us all toward greater heights. It begins with a simple choice, a seed I plant with each grateful thought and every sincere smile. What remains is not only the promise of personal elevation, but also the collective uplift. The tension between action and emotion is what colors the world brighter. It's the gentle push that denies our inevitable downward spiral. Seizing this moment, we become architects of our own upward spirals, paving the way for an expansive future filled with light. Case studies of transformation through thought shifts. Sarah was just like many of us, caught in the relentless swell of self-doubt and negative thought patterns that felt inescapable. She woke each morning to a familiar chorus of, "You're not enough. You'll never succeed, and this is just how it is." For years, she lived within a fog of mediocrity, flipping through the channels of life without ever really tuning in. Yet what changed the course of her life was not a grand revelation, but rather a subtle shift in her internal dialogue, an awakening to the power her thoughts held over her reality. Her journey began on a nondescript Tuesday as she stared out of her window, the same gray clouds hanging low in the sky as the thoughts that churned in her mind. It was then that she stumbled across a quote that resonated with her more than any motivational poster ever had. "The mind is everything. What you think you become." In that moment, an ember of possibility flickered within her. What if, instead of allowing negativity to dictate her narrative, she took the reins and transformed her thought process. This single question set her on an unexpected path to transformation. Determined to harness the power of positive thought, Sarah developed a simple practice. Every morning, she would write down 3 things she was grateful for, no matter how small, and affix them to her mirror. Each evening, she would sit with a journal in hand, reflecting on her accomplishments, no matter how minor. Slowly but surely, these small acts of acknowledgement began to stack up, creating a mosaic of positivity that began to overwhelm the dismal thoughts that had once dominated her mind. As weeks turned into months, Sarah observed a profound shift. She started to engage actively in her life, making choices aligned with her burgeoning self-belief. Her enthusiasm soon spilled over into her work and relationships. But transformation isn't always a linear journey. Just as Sarah began to embrace her newfound mindset, life threw her a curveball, a surprise layoff from her job. The internal narrative threatened to regain its grip, whispering messages of inadequacy and failure. Yet, something incredible happened. Instead of spiraling back into the familiar pit of despair, Sarah paused, reflecting on her journey. "I am not defined by my circumstances," she reminded herself, a mantra that had taken root within her. With each wavering step, she chose to see the layoff not as a setback, but as an opportunity, a chance to reevaluate her passions and align her career with her true self. Through this recalibration, Sarah landed an opportunity that fulfilled her heart's desire, becoming a wellness coach. Those fleeting moments of fear and doubt still visited her, but they were no longer the architects of her life. Instead, they were merely visitors, and she learned to greet them with curiosity rather than dread. Each iteration of self-doubt became a building block for her resilience, reinforcing the strength gained from her conscious thought shifts. As she surveyed her evolving story, Sarah understood deeply that her mind had the potential to either imprison or liberate her. The more she shifted from fear to gratitude and from self-doubt to self-belief, the more her world expanded, echoing the reality that transformation sprouted not from external circumstances, but from the quality of thoughts we choose to nourish. She had transcended her past. What had once tethered her to a downward spiral now became the very fuel that ignited her upward ascent. As she stepped confidently toward her new life, she embraced the truth. Change starts from within. Thoughts as a springboard, you must press down to launch upward. Imagine standing before a springboard, a sturdy yet flexible platform. At the base of this springboard lies not just your body weight, but the sum of all your thoughts, beliefs, and intentions. Each time you push down against this platform, you engage in a mental and emotional act that precipitates something extraordinary. The greater the effort you exert in pressing down, the more magnificent the leap you will make into the sky. This analogy serves as a potent reminder that our thoughts function similarly. They are not mere whispers in our minds, but the very mechanism that propels us upward. In moments of challenge or adversity, it's easy to lose sight of the potential held within our thoughts. We may feel trapped in a pit of discouragement, failing to recognize the elasticity of our minds. We are not bound by gravity, but instead equipped with a springboard leading to higher planes of possibility. Just as an athlete prepares mentally before a jump, we too must prepare ourselves by pressing down, by facing our fears and doubts head-on, engaging with the discomfort that arises. It is this confrontation that ultimately grants us the power to rebound with force, capturing the vitality of positive action. The beauty of this analogy lies not only in its depiction of effort as a pathway to elevation, but also in the awareness that we can harness our thoughts to our advantage. When I reflect on this concept, I think of Maya, a brilliant friend of mine who once floundered beneath the weight of her thoughts, believing that her past failures would dictate her future. It was when she decided to embrace the discomfort and press against her lingering insecurities, the moment she pressed down on her doubts, that she began to launch herself into a future filled with possibility. Each thought was like a calculated push, a deliberate effort to rise above the confines she had previously accepted, turning into springboard motivations that propelled her into new ventures she once thought unattainable. A thrill of excitement coursed through her as she realized the power her thoughts held over her life trajectory. But this upward journey requires persistence. As Maya often learned, there were days when she would slip back, when the very energy that had once fueled her would falter. Uncertainty would cloud her mind, and she would question the potential she had glimpsed. Yet those were the moments that required the most pressing down, the most determination to push through the resistance. Each moment of hesitation was a reminder that she was still standing before that springboard. The challenge lay in recognizing that her powerful leap had not been fully realized yet, and through continued effort and belief, she could take flight once more. This is our challenge as well, to recognize that the act of pressing down, of confronting our fears and doubts, is what ultimately leads to our ascension. Each moment we choose to cultivate high-quality thoughts, to intentionally nurture our beliefs about what is possible, we are reinforcing that springboard beneath us. We craft our takeoff through diligence and focus, transforming fear into hope, doubt into determination. The question remains, how far are we willing to leap? This is our moment to mold thoughts into action, to spring forth from the ground we stand on, embarking on an upward trajectory fueled by the energy of our own minds. Chapter 4. The Warning Signs of a Downward Spiral. Physical and Emotional Red Flags. Fatigue, anxiety, procrastination. The body often carries the weight of our unspoken thoughts, translating mental fatigue into physical exhaustion. I remember the days when getting out of bed felt like wrestling with my own mind. The heaviness clung to my limbs, and the once simple act of unearthing myself from the sheets became an insurmountable task. I began to notice how exhaustion didn't just linger in my muscles. It rooted itself deep in my psyche, eroding my enthusiasm for the day ahead. I would drag my feet to start the day, convinced that the ongoing battle of thoughts was an inevitable part of life. Anxiety fast followed this fatigue, a relentless companion whispering that every task was a mountain, and I was without the courage to climb it. My heart raced like a metronome out of tune, each tick amplifying a growing sense of dread. I felt perpetually on edge, a puppet whose strings were tangled and frayed. The spiral wasn't just a descent, it became a frenzied twirl, each anxious thought feeding off the last. It pushed aside my ability to act decisively, my mind overwhelmed by the cacophony of what-ifs and should-haves that filled the silence of my thoughts. With these red flags waving furiously in the background, procrastination slinked in like an uninvited guest, nestling into my routine. Tasks that once seemed straightforward transformed into epic quests that required heroic motivation, which I found in increasingly shorter supply. A deadline loomed larger than life, and yet I would scroll aimlessly, my fingers dancing across my phone while my mind was lost in a fog of avoidance. Day after day, I promised myself tomorrow would be different, but tomorrow always morphed into another day of postponement, and shame compounded my unrest, like rocks added to an already heavy backpack. The awareness of these warning signs steered me toward self-reflection, a mirror reflecting not just what I was, but what I could become. I began to question, what is this fatigue truly telling me? Is it a mere reaction to life's demands, or is it a deeper signal, indicative of the mental battles I was too afraid to confront? Anxiety seemed not to only stress my present, it taunted my future, whispering that perhaps change was not meant for me. I could feel my resolve dwindling, the pressure to act becoming intertwined with the fear of stepping into the unknown. These thoughts spun a web, ensnaring my spirit in their chaotic grasp. But I knew, in my quiet moments, that each of these sensations carried the potential for insight rather than fear. I could choose to respond, could explore the roots of my fatigue and unmask anxiety, and obliterate the cycle of procrastination that had taken residence in my mind. Yet, as I wrestled with these revelations, a sobering truth emerged. Recognizing the signs was just the beginning. Now the path toward understanding and facilitating change stretched before me, fraught not only with challenge, but blooming with possibility. The question lingered, would I have the courage to traverse it? Patterns of self-sabotage and negative loops. As I sat there in the dimly lit room, I began to recognize the familiar patterns wrapping around my thoughts like stubborn vines. It was astonishing how easily I could slip into self-sabotage. Each day felt like a series of choices that painted my reality more bleakly than the last. I knew something had to change. It was as if my own mind was conspiring against me, nudging me to retreat into negativity despite my deep yearning for progress. Among the many habits I grappled with was a relentless cycle of procrastination. Tasks that seemed simple morphed into mountains that loomed larger in my imagination. I could hear the quiet whispers of my mind insisting, "You're not good enough," or "What if it doesn't work out?" Strangely, the more I delayed, the easier it became to surrender to inaction. It felt safer to remain stagnant than to face the uncertainty that lay beyond the comfort of my negative loops. With each passing moment, the realization settled heavily on my shoulders. This was the trap of self-sabotage. It wasn't merely the act of delaying tasks. It was an intricate dance with fear and shame, an insistent cycle where disappointment and self-criticism fed into each other. I felt ensnared, like a character in a novel whose story was already written by a scheme of my own design. The vivid images of what could be were masked by a fog of pessimism. Could I possibly break free from this destructive narrative? The heavy sigh that escaped my lips echoed around the empty room, an acknowledgement of the internal struggle I faced. Each time I recognized a sign, an overwhelming anxiety coursing through my veins, fatigue weighing my eyelids shut, or the ever-present urge to seek distractions. I knew it was a warning that I was veering toward a downward spiral. Yet somehow, the weight of these realizations felt paralyzing rather than empowering. It was a labyrinth of my own making, the walls painted with the grim colors of doubt and self-judgment. Every time I tried to escape, I found myself back at the beginning, re-encountering the same dead ends and shadows. The moments of clarity would flicker like distant stars, and just as quickly, I would succumb to the void that seemed to absorb every glimmer of hope. I had become my own worst enemy. But as I navigated the fog, a faint sense of determination flickered within. Perhaps there was a way to rewrite the script. I began to question the narratives I had woven, a conscious effort to replace the "I can't" with "what if I try." That little shift in perspective was enough to ignite a spark of curiosity. Could it be possible that beneath each self-sabotaging pattern lay a fear waiting to be acknowledged? A truth just waiting for my recognition? As I delved deeper into this inquiry, the walls of the labyrinth began to shimmer with the possibility of change. The question hung in the air, almost daring me to act. What if this time I chose to confront the fears that had rooted themselves so deeply? What if I could forge a new path, one where self-sabotage no longer defined me? I could almost feel the grip of those vines starting to loosen. Yet, with every flicker of hope, there was an undercurrent of fear threatening to pull me back into the familiar shadows. Would I stand tall, or would I falter once more as I took that first step towards liberation? The role of triggers, identifying what pushes you down. As I ventured further into the intricate dance of my emotions, I became acutely aware of the triggers that governed my descent. They were like worn-out floorboards beneath my feet, creaking and groaning with every step I took. Each small irritation, a missed deadline, a careless remark, or a fleeting moment of self-doubt, unleashed an echoing vulnerability that sent me spiraling downwards. It struck me that these triggers were not just external nuisances, but reflected the deeper narrative of my internal world. They whispered fears from my past, rekindling memories of rejection and inadequacy. Each time I stumbled upon one, the fragile architecture of my self-worth threatened to collapse. Such moments demanded recognition. Ignoring these triggers was akin to ignoring the warning lights on a dashboard that had long been flashing red. Identifying these triggers became both an urgent necessity and a contemplative practice. Journaling became my refuge, a way to map the terrain of what pushed me down. I began to chart the moments of distress, seeking connections between my emotional responses and the situations that provoked them. This quest revealed a web of causality, shedding light on how vulnerability could be an invitation for empowerment when understood and harnessed. In understanding my triggers, I found the courage to confront them. I recognized that they often stemmed from deeply ingrained patterns, schemas that had been carved into my psyche long ago. Yet, each realization was a double-edged sword. While it illuminated the path to healing, it also surfaced an unsettling truth. The very knowledge of my triggers was a precursor to impending confrontations with my emotional landscape, ones I had deftly avoided for far too long. As I stood at the precipice of this internal journey, the weight of what lay ahead prompted both anxiety and determination. The question loomed: how would I respond when these familiar triggers surfaced once more? Would I succumb to the spiral, or could I learn to navigate the turbulence with newfound awareness? Pushing through the discomfort called for introspection and vulnerability. I longed to break free from the clutches of my own mind while grappling with the inevitable truth that acknowledging these triggers also meant confronting the pain and fear they carried. This battle against myself felt daunting, but it was the only way to prevent the downward spiral from prevailing. In the depths of reflection, a realization emerged. I had the power to transform my triggers into touchstones. They need not define my descent, but could guide me toward a deeper understanding of self. I clung to this insight, prepared to embrace the emotional uncertainties ahead, acutely aware that each confrontation weighed heavy with the potential for growth or regression. The tension built as I poised myself for action. The impending challenges loomed like storm clouds on the horizon, ready to test my resolve. As I forged ahead, armed with the knowledge of my triggers, I held onto the flickering hope that I could indeed transform my downward spiral into an upward journey, as long as I dared to face what had once felt insurmountable. Chapter 5: How to Pause the Descent. The Power of Awareness, Noticing Without Judgment. In the depths of our minds, where chaos often reigns, awareness acts as a quiet yet potent force, a lighthouse slicing through the fog. The notion of simply noticing our thoughts without judgment can seem perplexing, framed by the stories we tell ourselves about fear, doubt, and imperfection. This awareness is not about suppressing our emotions or thoughts, nor about indulging them blindly. It exists at the intersection of calm observation and deep understanding, where clarity arises from acceptance. Consider the moment when I first stumbled upon this truth in my own life. I was seated at a cafe, grappling with a swirling storm of self-doubt and anxiety. My mind was at the helm, dragging me deeper into despair, spinning tales of inadequacy. But as I took a breath, I remembered a simple exercise: to witness my thoughts as though I were an impartial spectator. This shifted everything. Instead of becoming tethered to my spiraling fears, I watched them float by, much like leaves on a river's surface, observing their shapes and hues without yearning to grasp them. This power of awareness, I discovered, was my key to pausing the descent. The real magic began to unfold when I realized that judgments inherently cling to our thoughts, often commandeering our perception. If I judged my anxious thoughts as bad, I would perpetually fight against myself, sinking deeper into the negativity. However, by simply acknowledging their presence, here's that anxiety again, I would say to myself, I could interrupt the cycle and create space to breathe. My thoughts, rather than directing my life, became mere sparks of awareness that I could analyze and understand. It was liberating. This shift didn't come overnight. I faced days when thoughts crashed like waves against the shore of my mind, eager to pull me into their depths. Yet, with each practice of detached observation, I began to build an unshakable resilience. I learned that even the most turbulent thoughts carried messages worthy of attention, without the need for self-criticism. The art lay in deciphering rather than dismissing, in noticing rather than reacting. In the grand tapestry of our lives, where every thread weaves a narrative, the power of awareness unveils the intricate designs hidden beneath our habitual patterns. When we cultivate this mindful presence, we gain the ability to disrupt the downward spirals, to replace the reflexive descent with conscious choice. It's as though we chart a course through stormy seas, adjusting our sails to mitigate the winds of negativity that threaten our journey. We realize that each moment is a new opportunity, each breath a possibility for change. Yet, as the walls of our minds occasionally close in, the tension between awareness and judgment surfaces anew. A whisper of doubt may creep in. Am I really capable of rising above this? This implicit battle reveals the fragile yet powerful nature of our consciousness. But if we embrace the practice of awareness, with kindness and curiosity, we can emerge from the shadows of self-judgment into the light of understanding. Like a phoenix reborn, we become the architects of our spirals, poised to ascend when the downward pull threatens to ensnare us. As I reflect on my story and the myriad experiences of others, it becomes clear: the key lies within our reach. With each moment of awareness, we invite transformation instead of despair, choosing to flow with the current rather than succumb to its gravity. The journey towards clarity begins with this fundamental choice: to notice our thoughts, to learn from them, and to ultimately step into a more empowered existence. Mindfulness practices to interrupt negative thoughts. In moments when negativity threatens to envelop us like a suffocating fog, awareness transforms into our most formidable ally. It is the ever-watchful guardian that urges us to heed the internal whispers of unease, revealing the path back to clarity. Observing these thoughts without judgment is pivotal. It is not about resisting the tumult, but acknowledging its presence as a transient visitor. This awareness can feel unsettling at first, a confrontation with the shadows we often avoid. To dig deeper, mindfulness practices serve as the intervention that can sever the chains of negativity. Breathing techniques, for instance, offer immediate refuge. Focusing on the breath as it flows in and out, like gentle waves caressing the shore, grounds us in the present moment, distracting from the incessant chatter within. Inhale deeply, allowing your lungs to expand, and then exhale fully as you envision releasing the weight of those bothersome thoughts. Each cycle of breath is an invitation to reset, an opportunity to create space for something new. Next, we might incorporate the powerful practice of body awareness. By tuning into our physical sensations, we redirect our attention from spiraling thoughts to the here and now. Notice the feeling of your feet on the ground, the texture of the fabric against your skin, or the subtle rhythm of your heartbeat. This practice fosters a deep connection with our physical selves, pulling us away from the abyss of negativity. Yet, as we cultivate these habits, we may encounter resistance. Our minds, well versed in their negative scripts, may protest against this shift. This is when the real transformation begins, where the tension between old patterns and new practices creates a powerful opportunity for evolution. The practice of gratitude further serves to illuminate the darkness. By consciously shifting our focus to what is good and beautiful, we can draw light into our thoughts. Begin by expressing gratitude for the simplest things: a warm cup of tea, a friend's smile, the sound of laughter. Each acknowledgement serves as a compass, directing us back toward the warmth of positivity, slowly weakening the pull of negativity. As we navigate these practices, the challenge is to remain patient, for interruptions to entrenched negative thoughts demand consistent effort. Over time, the commitment to mindfulness can yield moments of profound peace, where negativity no longer dominates our spirals. However, just as we begin to feel the lightness of release, there lies an essential test. Do we embrace the discomfort of uncertainty that comes with growth, or retreat back to familiar darkness? This pivotal moment hangs before us, suspended like the silent breath between two heartbeats. The choice now is ours to make, and in that choice resides the power to redefine our spirals toward ascension. Stories of people who stopped their downward spirals. Sometimes, it only takes a moment for life to pivot. Like the stillness before a storm when everything hangs in the balance, a single decision can mark the difference between spiraling downward and pulling yourself up. Emma knew this all too well, trapped in her own relentless descent as the walls of anxiety closed in around her. The weight of expectations, both self-imposed and from those around her, felt like a lead weight pulling her down. But there was one evening that changed everything. The night she finally reached out for help. It was a typical Thursday, gray clouds cloaking the sun, mirroring her internal turmoil. She was sitting on her bed, the remnants of yet another failed attempt at productivity scattered around her. Bills remained unpaid, work deadlines drifted into oblivion, and friends had ceased to reach out. In that moment, she thought specifically of Jeremy, a childhood friend who had always been the bright spot in her life. Years had rolled by filled with events that had distanced them, but something stirred in her, an urge to reconnect. With trembling fingers, she sent a message that asked simply, "Can we talk?" That single decision ushered in a cascade of unexpected consequences. Jeremy responded almost instantly, his warmth breaking through the fog of loneliness that had become her constant companion. Their conversation bled into hours, laughter and shared memories replacing the heavy silence that had once occupied her headspace. As connections rekindled, so did the flickering flame of hope. For the first time in a while, she felt the urge to get up, to view the world not through the lens of despair, but through a veil of possibility. Associations were made, new plans formed, and above all, Emma realized she wasn't alone. The gravity of her downward spiral was no match for the kindling of human connection. Parallel to Emma's walk through darkness, there existed Matt, a man who had found himself within the clutches of addiction, a spiral that felt infinitely deeper and more irreversible. His life revolved around the need to escape reality, a reality that seemed too harsh to face. When he hit rock bottom after yet another night of consequences, a window opened just when he thought all was lost. An old mentor appeared like a lighthouse in the fog, guiding him toward a recovery program that he had long resisted. That nudge was all it took. It catalyzed a string of events that revitalized his will to fight against his internal battles. Each day, Matt embraced the program's challenges, turning the chaos of mind and body into structured experiences. The groups were tough. Opening up was almost unbearable. His vulnerability felt like standing naked in front of a judge. Yet, with each tear shed, he felt the chains holding him down loosening little by little. A sense of camaraderie formed amongst the participants, each grounded in their struggle, yet uplifted by shared intentions. Through honesty and accountability, the descent into darkness became a collective ascent towards recovery. Matt was learning to redefine himself, not through the lens of addiction and loss, but one of hope and resilience. Both Emma and Matt's journeys reveal critical lessons about the choice we possess to interrupt our spirals before they plunge us into despair. They serve as reminders that while the descent can feel inevitable, there exists within us a will to call out to others, to weave connections that can anchor us in storms. By reaching out, whether through a text or a call, we can pull ourselves back into the light. And just as tension builds in a gripping novel, as their stories intertwine, we are left poised on the precipice, anticipating the transformation punctuated by those brave yet daunting choices that reshape their destinies. There is power in these threads of connection, a newfound strength to pause the downward spiral and ascend toward a brighter horizon. Chapter 6. Recognizing an Upward Shift. Small Wins. The beginning of positive momentum. As I stood at the edge of despair, the relentless weight of my circumstances felt insurmountable. I had spent years in a turbulent ocean of negative thoughts, succumbing time and again to the currents that sought to drag me deeper into the abyss. But one day, amidst the chaos, something shifted. It began with the smallest of victories, a flicker of light in a world overshadowed by darkness. I remember the moment vividly. It was as simple as getting out of bed before noon, a feat I had struggled with for weeks. My inner critic raged, belittling my achievement. Anyone can do that, it sneered. Yet, despite that voice, I felt a surge of warmth and pride coursing through me. That morning, I brewed a cup of coffee, the aroma wrapping around me like a comforting hug. I smiled as I sipped it, something so trivial yet profoundly grounding. This small act ignited a chain reaction within me. I realized that every subsequent day offered a canvas on which to paint simple victories. I committed to taking short walks, even if it was just to the end of the street. With each step, I could feel the weight of my despair slowly lifting. Each small win wove into the fabric of my day, creating a patchwork of positive momentum. Those victories were the seeds of change, reminding me of my potential to cultivate a new reality. The more I acknowledged these minor successes, the louder the gratitude in my heart became. It wasn't just about the actions. It was about recognizing the power they held to catalyze change within me. I began to document these wins. Journaling became a ritual, a sacred space where I could reflect on each day, shining a light on moments often overlooked. I became my own cheerleader, amplifying the positive vibrations and creating an energetic environment ripe for growth. Yet, with this newfound perspective came a daunting realization: the challenge of maintaining this upward trajectory. Shadows of doubt would creep in, accompanied by long-standing beliefs that suggested I would ultimately fail, that the cycle of negativity was too deeply ingrained. Would these small wins suffice to shield me against the storms of my past? Though fear whispered in my ears, a flicker of hope spoke louder. The belief that I could steer my ship away from the tumultuous waves of despair. Each time I celebrated those small victories, I buried the remnants of my doubt deeper. I understood that positive momentum isn't always a roaring wave. Sometimes, it's the gentle ripples that lead to a calm sea. In this journey of recognizing an upward shift, I learned that small wins pave the way for greater transformations. With every little victory, I was crafting a foundation upon which to build a structured and vibrant life. I realized, however, that the most significant challenge lay ahead: how to navigate the inevitable setbacks while keeping my gaze fixed on the horizon of possibility. As the days passed and more small wins accumulated, I felt empowered, but tension tugged at my spirit. The deeper I plunged into this journey, the more I sensed that my new perspective would be fiercely tested. The battles with my past were relentless. I understood that with every upward shift came the resistance of old patterns, clashing within. Would my small wins hold their ground against the tempest of self-doubt? The answer lingered in the back of my mind, a whisper beckoning me to forge forward into the unknown. How thought clarity brings emotional stability. Clarity of thought, I discovered, is like a lighthouse in a stormy sea, a beacon guiding us toward emotional stability amidst chaos. It cuts through the fog of confusion and despair, illuminating our path with insight and understanding. When we begin to think clearly, we embrace the present moment, releasing ourselves from the shackles of past regrets and future anxieties. In this state of clarity, our emotions find a steady anchor, allowing us to respond rather than react to life's inevitable turbulence. One evening, as I sat in quiet reflection, I could see how my own mind tended to spiral. Negative thoughts would seep in like an unwelcome guest, each one feeding a deeper emotional disarray. It was only when I practiced the art of thought clarity that I realized the extent to which my thoughts shaped my emotions. That realization struck me like a lightning bolt. Replaced fear with understanding, replaced worry with hope. This shift didn't just stabilize my emotional landscape, it transformed it. The clarity I craved became the solid ground upon which I could stand tall. As I continued on this journey, I began to notice the incremental changes in my emotional state. With each clear thought, I felt lighter and more focused. Decisions that once felt daunting began to unfold as clear pathways, each step illuminated by the insights gained through thoughtful reflection. However, this wasn't merely an intellectual exercise. It became the cornerstone of my emotional resilience. With a clearer mind, I could navigate challenges with a grace that seemed elusive before. Yet, as I felt the currents of stability strengthening, an uneasy tension stirred within me. What lay on the other side of this clarity? Would the very emotions I'd driven away return with a vengeance, or could clarity serve as my shield against a tempest of feelings? As I grappled with these questions, the path ahead glimmered with potential, and I understood that my inquiry into thought clarity had only just begun. Signs of a life on an upward spiral: energy, focus, joy. As I began to peel back the layers of my own experiences, I discovered three unavoidable signs that marked the ascent of my life: energy, focus, and joy. It was as if each element was a beacon, guiding me toward a brighter horizon, illuminating the path I was meant to embrace. The first and most palpable was the resurgence of energy, an almost electric charge that coursed through my veins. No longer did I feel tethered to the heavy sludge of procrastination or doubt. Instead, I felt light, alive, as though every cell in my body was awakening from a deep slumber, ready to engage with the world. This newfound energy propelled me forward, allowing me to tackle tasks that had once seemed insurmountable. My mornings became ripe with possibility, each sunrise inviting me to seize the day rather than dread it. I remember reflecting on how vital energy is to our purpose. It serves as the fuel that transforms dreams into reality. In those moments, I would set aside my apprehensions and embrace the vibrant currents flowing through me. Each day became a canvas of potential painted with enthusiastic strokes. Alongside this invigorating energy came an unparalleled focus. It was as if a fog had lifted from my mind's eye, revealing clarity that had been shrouded for years. My thoughts, once scattered and frenetic, began to coalesce around my true passions and goals. This sharpness allowed me to dissect my ambitions with precision, prioritizing what truly mattered. I found myself in a state of flow, where time lost its grip and I was wholly absorbed in the tasks that mattered most. It was intoxicating, the exhilaration of knowing that each moment of focus cultivated seeds of progress, and that my decisions began to align seamlessly with my growing vision. Just when I thought the upward trajectory couldn't prove more transformative, joy swept in like a gust of fresh air. This wasn't the fleeting happiness that comes from external validations or ephemeral successes. Rather, it was a deep-seated joy that felt woven into the very fabric of my being. I found myself laughing more easily, appreciating moments of connection and beauty. Life overflowed with richness as I learned to savor the simple pleasures: a warm cup of tea, a heartfelt conversation, or a walk under the storied sky. This joy became my compass, guiding my actions and illuminating my path, reminding me that I was worthy of all the goodness this life had to offer. Yet, amidst this flourishing orb of energy, focus, and joy, I found myself standing at a precipice of uncertainty. Each sign of my upward spiral whispered promises of elevation, yet they also beckoned me to confront the shadows that lingered just beyond the light. In my exuberance, I feared becoming complacent, forgetting that growth requires vigilance. What if this surge of positivity could wane? What if I, too, could easily slip back into old patterns? The tension of these thoughts began to weave an intricate web, one that begged to be unraveled. In this dance of light and shadow, I understood that recognizing an upward shift was not just about the signs. It was also about the courage to face the inevitable valleys that accompany every ascent. Chapter 7. The Role of Beliefs in Spiraling. Core beliefs, the foundation of your spiral. Every thought we entertain is akin to laying a brick in the structure of our lives. But underlying those thoughts are our core beliefs. These foundational principles act as the bedrock upon which our self-perception and reality are built. It's often easy to overlook them, yet they dictate the paths we choose, the challenges we shy away from, and the relationships we cultivate or sabotage. They are the unseen forces that shape our experience, messaging us whether we are capable, deserving, or worthy of happiness and success. As I sifted through my own layers of beliefs, peering into the numerous ways my thinking framed my actions, I stumbled across a sobering revelation. Many of my beliefs were inherited, mimicking the patterns and constraints I had observed in my upbringing. It was almost as if I was wearing a set of tinted glasses that skewed every perception, every interpretation of my life situation from a distorted angle. I thought of my childhood friend Tom, who believed wholeheartedly that failure was a reflection of his worth. His spiral was swift. Each setback battered his self-esteem, leading him to retreat further into isolation where he could safely harbor his limiting beliefs. As I watched him spiral down, I felt an urgency. If we don't challenge and refine our core beliefs, we risk forging paths of despair instead of hope. Core beliefs can act as either shackles or wings. With a gentle tendency, they either cradle us into upward spirals or anchor us in a downward descent, feeding our habitual ways of thinking. I remember reading a poignant account of an individual who, through rigorous self-examination, unearthed the belief that he was not enough. At first, it felt like a mountain he could never surmount. Yet, through persistent introspection and courage, he began to replace it with a belief that he was deserving of love and success. With each shift came an empowering realization. He was, at long last, the architect of his spiral. It was then that I understood the tension. Our beliefs are malleable, yet they hold a weight that can either buoy us upward or drag us down into a relentless torrent of self-doubt. As I held this in my heart, I began asking myself, what beliefs do I dare to challenge? What new foundations might I lay, inch by inch, to solidify my ascent? But the question lingers. What do we do when the very beliefs that cradle our understanding of the world also stifle our growth? The fear of stepping beyond our comfort zone evokes a palpable tension. It mirrors Tom's hesitation as he faced each challenge, the internal debate haunting him with the looming possibility of failure. In those moments, I'd often feel the invisible pull of my own core beliefs. Glimmers of negativity whispering that change is daunting, that uncharted waters could very easily lead to disaster. Yet it is in grappling with this tension, where the battle between staying safe and pursuing our highest selves wages, that growth truly often begins. Can we create a shift that dispels the darkness of our limiting beliefs? I found myself yearning to uncover, to uproot, and to replant more empowering beliefs. Each moment of uncertainty unfurled like a rising wave. I stood poised between the precipice of thought and the abyss of potential. And as I looked deeper, I realized the foundation of our spiral lies not in the chaos of external circumstances, but rather in the beliefs we choose to uphold. With courage to challenge and the resolve to adopt new, empowering beliefs, I saw the promise of an upward journey unfurl before me, a chance to redefine the structure upon which I was building my life. Limiting beliefs that drag you down. When I reflect on my past, I'm acutely aware of the heavy chains of limiting beliefs that I allowed to anchor me in place. These intrinsic narratives shaped my worldview, dominating my thoughts and actions. Each day, I rose with doubts gnawing at the edges of my consciousness, voices that whispered, "You're not good enough," and "What makes you think you can succeed?" These beliefs were my jailers, and I wore my prison sentence like a badge of shame. Take, for instance, Tom, a man whose aspirations were as vibrant as the sunset. He envisioned a thriving career in architecture, yet every time he sat down with a pencil and paper, he felt his confidence collapse like a house of cards. "You'll never pass the licensing exam," echoed relentlessly in his mind. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. His reluctance to invest in preparation stemmed directly from that limiting belief, which was cemented from years of comparisons to peers who seemed to soar effortlessly. Each unfinished sketch was a reminder of his presumed inadequacy, pulling him further into despair. In my quest for understanding, I realized these limiting beliefs were more than just thoughts. Their power lay in their hidden influence over my choices and realities. They coated my experiences in a layer of doubt, obscuring my vision and preventing me from recognizing opportunities. The recognition was painful but liberating. These beliefs, while deeply embedded, could be challenged and redefined. I began to understand that the only person holding me back was myself. That realization ignited a flicker of hope, a vital reminder that the journey towards freedom begins with the willingness to question the very foundations of what we believe. Yet, as Tom would soon discover, The battle against limiting beliefs is not merely fought through awareness. It requires a courageous confrontation. Breaking free from these mental constraints often feels like emerging from a long, oppressive fog. I could almost see Tom facing his fears, standing poised before the opportunities he'd long shunned. The moment he realized that each doubt was a barrier that could be dismantled rather than an immovable wall marked the turning point in his narrative. But the challenge loomed large. Would he dare to step into the uncertainty of growth, or would he retreat, tethered once more to the familiar weight of his fears? As these thoughts swirled around in my own mind, it became evident to me that recognizing limiting beliefs is the first hurdle, but transcending them requires vulnerability and tenacity. And each time I thought of Tom, I felt the tension building within me, like a tightly wound spring ready to release. With every revelation, I could sense the trajectory shifting. It was a heart-pounding race against the echo of self-doubt. With all that lay ahead, I braced myself for the monumental journey that awaited, knowing full well the burdens of the past could either drag me down or propel me toward the summit of my potential. Empowering beliefs that propel you upward. In the vast landscape of our minds, beliefs serve as the unseen architects of our lives. They build bridges to our aspirations or barricades that hinder our progress. Empowering beliefs, in contrast to paralyzing fears, are like the gusts of wind that swell the sails of our ship, propelling us toward the horizon of possibility. When the winds of belief are strong, we find ourselves surfing the waves of opportunity, untroubled by the depths of doubt. Consider Mia, whose life was once confined by the constrictive beliefs of her upbringing. She had long been taught that success was reserved for the privileged, a notion that anchored her to the shoreline of mediocrity. Yet a flicker of determination ignited within her, whispering that she was deserving of more. As she began to dismantle the belief that limited her potential, she felt the shift, an uprising of empowerment that cascaded into every facet of her life. With each empowering belief she adopted, Mia transcended the boundaries of her past. She visualized her dreams vividly, allowing them to take root in her consciousness. This visualization was no longer a mere wish, it became a declaration. She started to embody the version of herself she envisioned, attracting circumstances that aligned with her newfound beliefs. Yet, the path was not without struggle. Just as the wind can change direction unexpectedly, she faced challenges that threatened to sway her from the course she had set. One critical evening, after a particularly grueling day, Mia found herself at a crossroads. The haunting echoes of her limiting beliefs surged back, casting shadows of doubt over her aspirations. But in that moment of tension, a profound realization washed over her. The very beliefs that had once served as chains could become the keys to her freedom. She recalled the stories of those who had soared into the stratosphere of their dreams. Their empowering beliefs became a beacon, urging her to rise above her fears. Feeling the weight of her circumstances, she took a pen and paper and began to write. I am capable. I am deserving. I am enough. Each statement was a hammer striking against the anvil of her previous limitations. As she poured her heart into those words, she could almost feel the chains loosening. It was through this ritual of declaration that her empowering beliefs became not just thoughts but a manifesto for her future. Yet, even as she penned her truths, the darkness loomed, reminding her that every ascension comes with trials. Mia's story serves as a microcosm of a larger truth. Empowering beliefs can catalyze transformation and lead us into the spaces where we truly belong. They can lift us from our depths, but it is the tension between possibility and fear that tests our resolve. As we cling to our empowering beliefs amidst the winds of life's uncertainties, we discover a resilience that empowers our ascent. So here lies the question. Will you allow your beliefs to be the wind beneath your wings, or will you let them spiral you into a tempest of despair? Chapter 8. The Energy of Thoughts. High energy versus low energy thoughts. I often find myself standing at the crossroads of my mind, where high energy and low energy thoughts converge, creating an uneasy tension that can both elevate and burden my spirit. There's an electric pulse to high energy thoughts, vibrant and alive, pulsating with potential. They dance like fireflies in a summer night, beckoning me to chase the light and the possibilities they offer. Conversely, low energy thoughts loom like dark clouds, heavy and oppressive, pulling me into a state of inertia where motivation and hope seem just out of reach. The stark contrast between these two energies tempts me into pondering. What would happen if I allowed high-energy thoughts to guide my decisions instead of surrendering to the heavy pull of negativity? It's a war of attrition within my psyche, where I can feel the fatigue of low-energy thoughts wrap around me, bidding me to retreat into familiar despair. Yet, the allure of high-energy thinking beckons, whispering promises of inspiration, creativity, and a clearer connection to the world around me. As I traverse this mental landscape, I become acutely aware of the choices laid before me. Each thought becomes a stepping stone. Will I choose the vibrancy of hope or the lethargy of despair? I sometimes realize this choice is not as simple as it seems. External influences, conversations, news, social media, can flood my consciousness with low-energy narratives that thrive on fear, division, and negativity. My heart races at the thought. How do I reclaim my power in a world intruded by such pervasive pessimism? The answer lies in the intricate dance of awareness and intention, where I must actively challenge low-energy thoughts before they can take root and grow. One evening, as twilight faded and the day's exertions settled into calm, I resolved to explore this uncharted territory within me. I asked myself, what can I do to summon high-energy thoughts on command? I crafted a ritual, writing affirmations, envisioning my goals, meditating on gratitude. Each action a reinforcement, a declaration that I refused to be tethered by the weight of low-energy thinking. Yet, even as my resolve solidified, a flicker of doubt whispered in my ear. What if this was just temporary? What if darkness crept in again and I found myself ensnared? This tension, this mental battlefield, would continue to shape my narrative, and I could only hope to emerge as the victor. But as I looked deeper, I discovered that the true power of thoughts extends beyond mere awareness. It lies in the alignment of intention and action. Harnessing the intense energy radiating from my higher thoughts, I found myself on the brink of transformation, a thrilling precipice flanked by the lingering fear of descent. What would it mean to fully embrace high-energy thinking? Would I break free of the invisible chains of fear and complacency, or would I risk the freefall into my old patterns? My heart races, caught in a whirlwind of potential and apprehension, but deep down, a quiet voice urges me to leap into the exhilarating unknown. How mental energy affects decision-making and action. The choices we make are not merely the result of logical reasoning. They pulsate with the vibrant energy of our thoughts. High mental energy acts as a powerful amplifier for our decision-making abilities, shaping our actions with intention and purpose. Imagine standing at a crossroads, each path illuminated by the clarity of focused mental energy. You can feel the tug of possibilities, each one resonating with the thoughts that fuel your confidence and insight. When energy is high, decisions transform from burdens into opportunities, and each move feels like a step toward your desired destination. On the contrary, low mental energy casts long shadows over our choices, initiating a suffocating spiral of indecision. Think of it as trying to navigate through fog. Each step forward is laden with uncertainty, making even the simplest of choices daunting. In such states, we may resort to avoidance, procrastination, or decisions driven by fear rather than clarity. It's as if our minds become heavy, the weight of negative energies dragging us down and clouding our judgment. The implications are profound. When we are trapped in a cycle of low mental energy, our actions often reflect that misalignment. We become mere passengers in our lives instead of the dynamic architects we strive to be. As I write this, I'm reminded of my friend Andrew, a talented artist whose creativity ebbed and flowed with his mental energy. When he was energized, vibrant pieces would emerge from his brush, filled with life and enthusiasm. Yet, on days overshadowed by self-doubt and lethargy, his canvas remained blank, mirroring the stagnation in his mind. Andrew's journey illustrates the connection between mental energy and decision-making, how a simple shift in mindset could springboard him into a creative frenzy or bind him in a maze of frustration. This tug-of-war between high and low mental energy showcases a universal struggle, one that affects not only artists but everyone navigating the complexities of daily life. In the philosophical realms of psychology, the concept of mental energy aligns closely with the principle of intention. Intentions empower us. They shape our actions and guide us towards our goals. High mental energy fosters clear, focused intentions. It's in this space of enthusiasm and passion that decisive actions emerge almost effortlessly. Furthermore, the data supports this notion. Research indicates that cognitive load taxes our mental energy, leading to poorer decision-making and often regretful actions. Recognizing this dynamic becomes critical in our journey to elevate our thought processes and overall well-being. As I delve deeper into the subject, I can't help but feel the mounting tension within myself. The realization that our mental energy can be both our greatest ally and worst enemy. As I explore these themes, it leaves me wondering, what would happen if we learned to cultivate high mental energy deliberately? What life-altering decisions would we embrace, and what stagnant paths would we leave behind? The clock is ticking, and it beckons us to confront the wellspring of our inner energies, to rise and harness them, propelling us toward an ethos of action deeply aligned with our highest aspirations. The stakes have never felt higher. Stories of energy alignment and misalignment. As I sit in the cozy nook of my favorite cafe, the afternoon sun spills golden light across the worn wooden table, and I can't help but reflect on Lisa's journey, a vivid testament to the delicate dance of energy alignment and misalignment in our thoughts. The moment I met her was etched in my mind. She radiated a certain vibrancy, a lightness that seemed to pull the very air around her. Yet, that radiance was not always there. Lisa had once lived through a storm of self-doubt, her myriad thoughts tangled in a web of misunderstanding about her value. Just a year prior, she experienced a significant setback in her career. The weight of that failure brought forth a cascade of low-energy thoughts, each whispering lies to her, draining her motivation and leaving her feeling stuck in a rut. One day, while reflecting in a park, she recalled the power of intention and how her thoughts could either align with her lower self or rise toward her potential. That moment marked the beginning of her transformative journey. Determined, she began to practice daily affirmations, infusing her mind with high-energy thoughts. She envisioned herself thriving in her career, surrounded by support and creativity. Lisa's exploration of mindfulness unveiled a world of possibilities. She would often journal her thoughts, meticulously sifting through the layers of negativity that sought to entrap her. As she aligned her mental energy with her aspirations, she started taking bold actions, setting the stage for incredible changes. Friends noticed her glow rekindling, igniting a spark of inspiration in those around her as well. However, if all stories were linear and uncomplicated, they would fail to capture the essence of growth. One evening, after a particularly draining day at work, Lisa succumbed to an old habit. She allowed her thoughts to drift back toward self-sabotage. In those moments of despair, she found herself questioning everything she had built. Sitting alone in her dimly lit room, low-energy thoughts enveloped her once again, whispering insidious doubts about her journey and its worth. It was a tempting descent into the familiar chaos that almost seemed too easy to accept. At that critical juncture, with tears stinging her eyes, Lisa faced a choice: retreat into the shadows of her doubt or reach back for the alignments she had cultivated. As she stood on the precipice of that decision, she remembered a pivotal moment from her past: the compassion and support she had found within her community. From that memory, strength surged through her. Lisa sprang into action, picking up her journal and pen, letting the words flow as a cathartic release. She unraveled the thoughts binding her, redefining her "I am" statements with intention. With each stroke of the pen, she reclaimed her energy, weaving a tapestry of resilience and hope. But the tension lingered. Would she be able to shake off the weight of self-doubt, or would it entrap her once more? The clock ticked as she battled with her emotions, hovering between alignment and misalignment. The energy she cultivated through journaling, self-affirmation, and community support had the power to pull her upward, yet the fear of regression flickered like a dimming candle. She could feel the pull of negativity, like gravity threatening to drag her back. Would she find the strength to stand firm against those forces? Ultimately, Lisa's choice on that stormy night became a pivotal moment not just for her, but for everyone who bore witness to her transformation. As whispers of her story began to ripple through her circles, she inspired others to confront their demons, their own thoughts of energy misalignment. The human capacity to rise and realign was illuminated beautifully. In sharing her experience, Lisa became a beacon for those lost in their spirals, reminding them that the journey toward alignment is filled with challenges, but that each breath, each thought, has the power to either anchor us down or elevate us skyward. Chapter 9. Emotions as Guides. Emotional Intelligence in Managing Thought Spirals. As I sat in the quiet of my room, surrounded by a whirlwind of racing thoughts, I felt the weight of every spiral threatening to pull me down into a chasm of despair. It was then that I realized how pivotal emotional intelligence was in navigating this landscape. My thoughts were like tempestuous waves, but my emotions were the lighthouse guiding me through the storm. Understanding the intricate dance between these two forces became my fortress, a bastion where I could manage the chaos of my mind. Emotional intelligence, I discovered, was not just a passive awareness. It was an active and empowering force. When I began to recognize and label my emotions, starting from the subtle hum of anxiety to the thunderous crash of anger, I granted myself the power to intervene. Instead of spiraling blindly into despair, I became the observer, watching my thoughts rise and fall like the tide. By acknowledging each emotion without judgment, I learned to navigate through the maelstrom of my mind with a deftness I never thought possible. But this journey was fraught with challenges. There were days when I stumbled, when I felt the pull of negativity almost suffocating. I still remember the moment I confronted my greatest fear, a haunting sense of inadequacy that loomed over me, whispering doubts and criticisms. It was during these moments that my emotional intelligence became my shield. Recognizing that this thought spiral was not my reality, but merely a projection built on past experiences, allowed me to reclaim my narrative. I began to channel these emotions into questions rather than conclusions. What lesson does this bring? And what can I do differently? Gradually, the churning chaos transformed into a constructive inquiry, and the weight lifted. Yet, just as I found a sense of clarity, I felt a looming darkness beckoning once more, a challenge waiting on the horizon that I had to face. Using emotions to recognize when to shift focus. As I navigated the vast landscape of my thoughts, I began to understand an undeniable truth. Emotions serve as a compass, guiding us toward the necessary shifts in our focus. I remember a time when I was overwhelmed, caught in the tangled web of my own fears and anxieties. I felt as if every wisp of positivity was choked out by a relentless storm cloud of despair. It was during those moments that I realized my emotions were not merely responding to my surroundings. They were signals, profound indicators whispering the need for change. It started with a heavy weight pressing on my chest, a familiar feeling when I was spiraling down. Anxiety would creep in, whispering tales of self-doubt and reinforcing limitations I had accepted as my truth. Yet, with every clench of my stomach and every flutter of my heart, I learned to listen. Each sign of discomfort became a cue that I was losing sight of clarity, a warning that my focus needed to shift. I learned to recognize the subtle shifts in my emotional landscape, directing my attention to the deeper messages they carried. In those moments of heightened emotion, be it fear, frustration, or even fleeting joy, I began to question my thoughts. What were they trying to tell me? Why were certain scenarios making my heart race or my palms sweat? Instead of succumbing to the chaos, I took a pause, allowing my feelings to surface. I sought to explore the nexus between my emotions and my recurring thoughts. This investigation wasn't just about alleviating discomfort, but about activating a newfound awareness that could lead to transformative shifts. As time passed, I distinguished between emotions that signaled me to stay the course and those that compelled me to take action. Moments of joy became flags urging me to chase more of what uplifted my spirit, while feelings of unease became alerts, compelling me to reassess my current direction. Each emotional signal transformed into an invitation to explore, a pathway to better understanding not only myself, but the world around me. Through this process, I discovered that emotions could be reframed, or as I like to think of it, alchemized. By acknowledging them, I could reshape my narrative, allowing my pulse of enthusiasm to dictate some journeys while wrestling with the shadows of fear on others. My emotional spectrum became a rich field of resources, propelling me onward toward greater self-awareness and heightened resilience. This fine-tuning of focus proved transformational, enabling me to cultivate a life more aligned with my values and aspirations. And then came that revelation. It is okay to shift focus. It is essential. Embracing this mindset meant surrendering to the ebb and flow of emotions, unveiling the layers of myself that needed nurturing, and igniting the flames of passion, creativity, and unwavering hope. With this recognition, I felt the tension build because I understood the beauty and power of emotional fluidity. A profound sense of liberation washed over me, charging me to embrace forthcoming changes, to wrestle with discomfort as necessary, and to elevate myself in ways I had yet to envision. Yet, at that moment, I stood on the precipice, staring into the depths of my potential and the tumult I had yet to navigate. The anticipation crackled in the air around me, suspense clouding my thoughts. Would I embrace what lay ahead or succumb to the familiar? I clench my fists, feeling the warmth of my resolve versus the coldness of doubt. The tension hung in the air, urging me toward a leap of faith. With heart racing, I could almost hear the whispers rushing through me. Shift your focus, follow your emotions, and discover yourself anew in this intricate dance. Exercises for listening to and leveraging emotional signals. In the intricate dance between thoughts and emotions, the ability to listen to our emotional signals is paramount. It's as if each feeling acts as a compass, guiding us toward or away from our true selves. Yet, how often do we dismiss these signals, allowing life to sweep us along without heeding their gentle whispers? This chapter invites you to cultivate the practice of tuning into your emotions, transforming them from mere reactions into powerful navigational tools. Start by carving out moments of solitude. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and take a few deep breaths. As you breathe in, invite awareness into your body, scanning for any tensions or discomfort. Allow yourself to linger in those feelings, to explore what they might be trying to convey. Are they signaling fear, joy, anger, or sadness? Each emotion carries its own message, and understanding this is the first step toward leveraging their power. Write down what you feel and the thoughts accompanying those feelings. This practice lets you externalize the internal chaos, making it manageable and visible. Next, consider engaging in a dialogue with your emotions. Imagine you are having a conversation with them. What are you trying to tell me? Why are you here? You may be surprised by the insights that surface. Emotions are not foes but allies. They nudge us toward honesty and self-awareness. This exercise cultivates emotional intelligence, helping you decipher when a shift in thought is necessary. As you navigate through your feelings, reflect upon moments in your life where ignoring these signals led you astray. Allow that tension to build within you, the recognition of past missteps reminding you that this time, you can choose differently. Ultimately, practice noticing emotional shifts throughout your day. When frustration rises during a stressful task, pause and ask yourself why. When you feel a rush of excitement, seize that moment to explore its roots. Jot down these instances and at the end of each day, reflect on how your emotions guided or misled you. The crescendo of this exercise lies in recognizing patterns and understanding when to pivot your thoughts. Embrace the discomfort that arises as you challenge the status quo of your emotional responses. As your awareness deepens, so too will your capacity to leverage these emotional signals, turning the tide from reactive living to intentional acting. Chapter 10: Building High-Quality Thoughts. The role of curiosity, gratitude, and vision in upward thinking. Curiosity is the spark that ignites our desire to learn and expand our horizons. It invites us to explore the unknown, to ask the questions that lead to deeper understanding. When we cultivate curiosity, we position ourselves to embrace new ideas and experiences, allowing our thoughts to stretch beyond the comfortable confines of habitual thinking. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast ocean, the depth of it inviting you to wade in, each wave a new possibility. Curiosity fuels this exploration, urging us to dive deeper instead of retreating to a shore of familiar, stagnant beliefs. Gratitude, on the other hand, acts as a powerful antidote to negativity. When we express gratitude, we shift our focus from what we lack to the abundance that surrounds us. It is a practice that opens our hearts and minds, encouraging us to recognize and appreciate the positive aspects of our lives. This recognition creates a fertile ground for high-quality thoughts to flourish. Picture yourself standing before a sunset, every hue of orange and pink a reminder of the beauty that often goes unnoticed. In those moments of thankfulness, we elevate our state of mind, turning our gaze towards possibility and joy. Vision shapes our trajectory by providing a clear destination for our thoughts to navigate. When we have a vision, we understand where we want to go, and our thoughts can align with that path. It's akin to being a ship at sea. Without a compass, we might drift aimlessly, but with a clear direction, we can harness the winds to propel us forward. The interplay of curiosity, gratitude, and vision crafts an upward spiral of thought, each element reinforcing the others. It creates a powerful momentum, lifting us above the noise and chaos of daily life towards a more intentional and meaningful existence. Yet, just as the sun sets, casting shadows that threaten to dim our light, there are moments when doubt creeps in. What if our curiosity leads to discomfort? What if gratitude unveils the stark comparisons of our lives? What if our vision feels too distant, a dream just out of reach? It is in these moments that we must hold fast to the virtues of an upward mindset, anchoring ourselves in the belief that we possess the strength to rethink our narratives, transform our reality, and emerge resilient. The tension of uncertainty hangs in the air like a storm cloud. It feels oppressive, but within that cloud also lies the potential for growth and transformation. Are we prepared to challenge ourselves, to embrace the storm, and allow our thoughts to be the catalyst for change? How to challenge and reframe negative thoughts. In the quiet corners of our minds, negative thoughts linger like uninvited guests, whispering doubts and fears that distort our reality. These thoughts often masquerade as truth, creating a fog of uncertainty that clouds our decision-making and emotional well-being. Yet, within this chaos lies the incredible potential for transformation. The first step towards reclaiming my mind from these persistent shadows has always been awareness, recognizing when those negative thoughts begin to seep in. This is the moment when I have a choice, to let them take root or challenge their validity. To effectively challenge negative thoughts, I have found it essential to employ a technique known as cognitive restructuring. This process starts with questioning the evidence behind my negative beliefs. For instance, when a thought like "I always mess things up" arises, I ask myself, is this really true? Have I never succeeded at anything? I then begin to list my accomplishments, however small, juxtaposing the evidence against the negativity. It's like wielding a spotlight, illuminating the darker recesses of my mind, forcing them to retreat. This counternarrative not only weakens the grip of the original thought, but also nurtures a more balanced perspective. Reframing goes a step further. Instead of merely disputing the negativity, I actively transform my perspective. If I catch myself thinking, "I can't handle this," I reframe it to, "This challenge is an opportunity to grow." This shift in language can magically alter my emotional response. Words are powerful. They shape not just my thoughts, but also my experiences. As I practice reframing, I can feel my inner landscape shift. What was once a daunting obstacle becomes a stepping stone. Amidst this process, the realization dawns. I am not merely a passive participant in my thoughts. I am the architect, capable of redesigning my mental framework to fortify resilience and foster growth. But challenging and reframing my thoughts is not a one-time effort. It is a continuous journey, filled with peaks and valleys. In moments of stress or sadness, I sometimes falter. I might slip back into that familiar downward spiral, feeling the weight of negativity threatening to pull me under. However, it's this very tension that anchors me to the commitment of challenging my thoughts repeatedly. I remind myself that this practice is like a muscle. The more I exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Who I am is not defined by my mistakes or insecurities, but by my ability to rise above them. As I delve deeper into this journey, I learn to embrace discomfort as a necessary companion on the road to growth. Each moment of doubt serves as a reminder of my humanity, urging me to respond with compassion rather than self-criticism. With each challenge overcome, I gather the strength to face even greater trials, transforming what once dominated my mind into fuel for my resilience. And in the throes of this internal battle, as I grapple with fear and uncertainty, the tension mounts. A promise of victory lies just beyond the horizon, waiting for me to lay hold of it and soar. Practical exercises for cultivating positive thought habits. In the journey to build high-quality thoughts, practical exercises become the stepping stones toward transformation. These exercises serve as a bridge, guiding us from the rocky shores of negativity to the fertile lands of positivity. One particularly effective practice is the gratitude journal, where each morning, I take a quiet moment to jot down 3 things I am grateful for. This simple act shifts my focus from what's lacking to the abundance that already exists in my life. Another impactful exercise is the positive affirmation technique. Standing in front of the mirror, I repeat affirmations that resonate with my aspirations. Phrases like, "I am capable of achieving my dreams," become anchors in a turbulent sea of self-doubt. Each word is a drop of water on the stone of my mind, slowly carving out a new narrative, one where I believe in my potential and worth. Incorporating mindfulness into my daily routine stands out as an essential practice. I take 5 minutes each day to breathe deeply, focusing on my inhalation and exhalation. This practice centers my mind, allowing me to observe my thoughts as they drift by, like clouds in the sky, without attaching to them. Here, I begin to notice negative patterns without judgment, which sets the foundation for richer awareness and control. Moreover, Visualizing my ideal future has proven invaluable. Each week, I dedicate time to picture my goals vividly, engaging all my senses. I can almost feel the success, hear the applause, and see the smile on my face. This visualization isn't mere daydreaming. It's a powerful tool that stirs motivation and ignites actions that align with my deeper desires. As I delve deeper into these exercises, I create habits of positivity that begin to change the very fabric of my reality. Each effort, no matter how small, compounds over time, nurturing a mindset resilient to adversity. What begins as a tick on a checklist blossoms into an empowering ritual that reshapes my internal dialogue. However, it's vital to stay aware of the tension that often arises. Despite my commitment to positive thinking, there will be moments when the shadow of negativity looms large. It's during these times that I remind myself of the principles I'm cultivating: relentless curiosity, unshakable gratitude, and a compelling vision for my future. I feel a surge of resistance, a battle against the ingrained, automatic negative thoughts. The pressure builds, yet I stand firm, clinging to the belief that I am steering my narrative towards a brighter horizon. As I incorporate these exercises into my life, I face a profound decision point. I can allow the inner chaos to dictate my reality or wield my newfound tools to reshape it. The tension builds as I realize that the choice lies entirely within me. Will I give in to the gravitational pull of negativity, or will I ascend, propelled by the high-quality thoughts I'm determined to nurture? In the depths of this inner struggle, a flicker of hope ignites, reminding me that each moment holds the potential for transformation, ready to unfold with intention. Chapter 11. Turning Emotions into Catalysts. How to harness negative emotions without letting them drag you down. Negative emotions can feel like a heavy weight, dragging us into a whirlpool of despair if we let them. Yet within these turbulent feelings lies a potential power, a flicker of energy waiting to be transformed. When I first understood this, it felt like the first rays of sunlight breaking through a stormy sky. I learned that anger could fuel my determination, fear could become a compass pointing me towards personal growth, and sadness could compel me to seek deeper connections. What if I told you that these emotions, while uncomfortable, can be catalysts for change? I remember standing on the precipice of my own struggles, confronted with anxiety that left me paralyzed. It was a moment of reckoning when I realized that I had a choice: to remain entrapped in the storm or to harness that storm as a catalyst to move forward. I began to explore my emotions instead of shying away from them. Journaling became my intimate conversation with pain, where I articulated my fears and frustrations, gradually transforming them into blueprints for action. The key lies in recognizing that negative emotions are not the enemy, they are messengers. Each one carries a lesson that, if embraced, can propel us into new realms of understanding. It's as if our sorrow holds a map leading us to deeper self-awareness, but we must be brave enough to navigate through the thickets of discomfort. By learning to sit with these emotions, to explore their depths without judgment, I began to unleash a reservoir of strength I never knew existed. The more I engaged with my emotions, the clearer my path became. As I dove deeper, I found that the act of transmuting negative feelings into actionable insights was like alchemy. Each moment of despair turned into a decision to make a change. Every burst of anger ignited my passion for justice, and overwhelming sadness taught me gratitude for the joy I experienced in fleeting moments. This transformative process took patience and commitment. I had to wrestle with my shadows, but the experience unveiled a resilience that reshaped my identity. I learned to reframe the narrative. Instead of allowing negativity to define me, I became an architect of my emotions, crafting a future that honored both my struggles and victories. There were days when darkness threatened to close in, where the weight of my burdens seemed insurmountable. But then I would recall how, in the depths of that struggle, I had chiseled a version of myself that was stronger, wiser. I began sharing my journey with others, fostering a community that believed in the power of collective healing and growth. It turned out that when we harness our negative emotions, we not only change our path, but also inspire others to reclaim their narrative. The tension of those early struggles became the thread that wove a resilient tapestry of hope, resilience, and connection. Now, as I stand at the intersection of where I was and where I'm headed, I recognize the profound truth. Negativity does not have to be a closing door, but can be an opening into a new realm of possibilities. If we dare to lean into our emotional storms, it's not about preventing them but embracing their force. It's about being swept into a journey of transformation. It ignites a fire within us, compelling us to create, connect, and grow. And on the horizon looms the promise that, even in our darkest times, we hold the power to rise above and thrive. The transformational power of forgiveness and compassion. Forgiveness is more than just a release. It is a transformative act, one that triumphs over our baser emotions and elevates us toward the light of healing. In the past, I often found myself buried under the weight of grudges and resentments, trapped in a cycle of negativity that seemed impossible to escape. Each unkind word or thought anchored me further into despair, like chains securing my spirit to a darkened past. It wasn't until I learned to harness the power of forgiveness that I could truly begin to lift those chains, step by step. I remember the moment vividly, sitting in a quiet park, the air crisp, leaves rustling beneath a sky painted with sunset hues. I had finally mustered the courage to confront the bitterness that had coiled around my heart like a serpent. It was a conversation with someone I had deeply wronged, yet the weight of the situation fell heavier on my shoulders, haunting my thoughts. I felt paralyzed by the prospect of forgiveness, yet I knew it was the key to my liberation. As I spoke the words "I forgive you," a wave of relief washed over me, lightening my burden in ways I had never anticipated. Compassion, too, emerged as a gentle force that shifted my entire emotional landscape. It is through compassion that we bridge the chasm of misunderstanding, not just toward others, but also toward ourselves. We often overlook the vital role self-compassion plays in our healing journey. One evening, after an excruciating day filled with failure and self-doubt, I sat on my bed, enveloped in a space of raw vulnerability. It was then that I realized I had been my harshest critic, drowning in a sea of negative self-talk. Instead of berating myself for not being perfect, I decided to wrap myself in compassion as if it were a warm blanket, forgiving myself for every misstep and celebrating my intentions, however flawed. Forgiveness and compassion hold an incredible capacity to transform pain into wisdom and anger into understanding. The true challenge lies in how we choose to engage with our emotions, whether we allow ourselves to remain shackled or use those very experiences as catalysts for growth. As I transformed these emotions into tools, harnessing their potential for change became empowering. Just then, I experienced an epiphany. The universe doesn't require me to forget the past. Instead, it invites me to learn from it. This realization ignited a spark within me, a determination to leverage every ounce of my emotional struggle as a step toward enlightenment. As I further opened myself to the depths of forgiveness, I found that compassion became a natural byproduct, an interconnected thread leading me to deeper insights and connections with others. One day, while volunteering at a local shelter, I met a woman whose story mirrored my own, not in the specifics, but in the emotional resonance of pain, suffering, and longing for redemption. Through conversations filled with empathy and shared experiences, I saw how forgiveness acts as a balm healing wounds older than either of us knew. Yet, forgiveness does not come without its trials. As I continued to peel back the layers of my emotional turmoil, I stumbled upon a particular memory that refused to be vanquished. A betrayal that had once left me shattered stood before me again, strong and vivid, its claws dug deep in my psyche. It was an uninvited specter, whispering that perhaps some injuries could never truly heal. With each passing day, I wrestled with this unrelenting reminder, navigating the tumultuous waters between resentment and the desire to let go. In the quiet of the night, I grappling with the fear of losing a part of myself, that it might feel as if I were forgiving not just the act, but also the person who had caused me such pain. But I held on to the belief that forgiveness does not equate to absolution. It was a conscious choice to reclaim my power from the claws that had inflicted wounds on my soul. This internal conflict propelled me forward, sharpening my resolve and guiding me toward an emotional reckoning I could feel brewing on the horizon. I was teetering on the precipice of an awakening, where the choice to forgive could ignite my path toward genuine healing. The transformative power of forgiveness and compassion lies not only in their ability to elevate us from despair, but also in their capacity to dissolve the barriers we erect against ourselves. For as I stood face to face with my fears, I couldn't help but wonder, would I allow myself to embrace this profound shift? Or would I continue to let the chains of my past bind me to a cycle of sorrow? I felt tension mounting, a palpable energy swirling around as I prepared to leap into the unknown, my heart pounding with the possibility of liberation. Stories of emotional alchemy, turning pain into growth. Rachel stood at the edge of her world, a landscape crumbled by grief and loss. Just months prior, she had lost her mother, a woman who was both her anchor and her compass. Each day felt like an uphill battle, where the weight of pain pressed down on her chest, making it hard to breathe, let alone think of a future without the woman who had always guided her. Each morning was a reminder of emptiness, and nights blurred into endless thoughts that spiraled deeper into despair. But within this sorrow, the tiniest flicker of resolve ignited in Rachel's heart. It whispered a possibility, the notion that within every painful lesson was a seed for growth. With trembling hands, she wrote down her feelings, pouring her heart onto the pages of her journal. It was a silent pact with herself, to transform this anguish into something meaningful. The act of writing became her therapy, each word a small step away from the abyss. Days turned into weeks, and in moments of solitude, Rachel began to reflect on the teachings her mother left behind. Every piece of advice shared over teacups of herbal tea and late-night talks about dreams and fears came crashing back. She remembered a particular conversation about the importance of resilience, the idea that every setback contained the potential for a comeback. It was time to honor that legacy. Rachel began volunteering at a local charity, finding solace in helping others navigate their own grief. Each smile sparked by her words ignited a greater warmth within her. She was not merely surviving, but was beginning to genuinely live again. But even as she grew, shadows lingered. Doubts echoed in her mind, taunting her with reminders of her pain. Was she truly worthy of happiness? On particularly tough days, Rachel wrestled with the temptation to retreat back into the safety of her sorrow. Yet, each time she was pulled down, she fought back harder. The laundry list of challenges she faced became a tapestry of resilience, a story unfolding right before her eyes. The act of transformation wasn't linear. It was messy, uncomfortable, and often terrifying. But with each small triumph, she felt herself alchemizing moments of severe sadness into powerful catalysts for growth. Then, on a crisp autumn day, as the leaves fell like whispers of change, Rachel faced the ultimate test. She received a letter, a final message from her mother, penned before her illness took her voice. As she read those words, a storm of emotions surged through her: rage, joy, sorrow, acceptance. In that moment of turmoil, she felt the weight of her grief shift, like lead melting into gold. Those hurtful moments of vulnerability became tools for her rebirth. Rather than retreat, she immersed herself deeper into the lessons of love and loss her mother had imparted. Rachel realized she was no longer just a daughter in mourning. She was a powerful force of change, a true alchemist of her own life. The journey had begun, not just of healing, but of actively crafting a legacy that honored both pain and growth. Rachel took a deep breath, envisioning a future where she could channel her emotional turbulence into artistry, creativity, and purpose. The tension of her story was built on the premise that pain does not overshadow the beauty of resilience, it fuels it. She had transformed from a victim of circumstance into an architect of her destiny, wielding her experiences as though they were colored brushes, painting a canvas of hope and renewal. Chapter 12: The Role of Actions in the Spiral. The Thought-Action Feedback Loop. The connection between our thoughts and actions is profound, a dynamic interplay that encapsulates the very essence of human experience. When we think positively, it can spark a series of actions that lead to tear down barriers within ourselves and foster growth. Conversely, negative thoughts often translate into equally negative actions, creating a cycle that drags us further down into a pit of despair. It is this feedback loop, this unyielding dance between thought and action, that shapes our reality and what we can achieve. Consider the moment when I decided to change my life. I remember vividly the heaviness of self-doubt that clung to me like a damp cloak, stifling my every move. Yet in those moments of clarity, when I could momentarily glimpse a future brighter than my immediate reality, it was exhilarating. Those thoughts, inkling of possibilities and hope, spurred actions that once seemed insurmountable. I began to write, to reach out, and to forge connections that, just weeks prior, I was certain would bear no fruit. The initial steps were shaky, marked by uncertainty, yet fueled by the audacious belief that perhaps I could change the narrative of my life. As time went on, I began to see how the results of my actions fed back into my thoughts, shaping a favorable loop that spiraled upwards. With each small victory, a completed task, a kind word received, a connection made, my thoughts shifted from doubt to affirmation, from I can't to I can. It was like water finding its way through jagged rocks, seeking the path of least resistance, carving a new channel for future streams. But this is where the tension resides. The fragility of the feedback loop is starkly apparent. One misstep can lead to a cascade of setbacks, pushing me back into familiar darkness. How easily we can fall from the heights of optimism and possibility into the depths of hopelessness, simply by allowing negative thoughts to incubate. Understanding this feedback mechanism is crucial for anyone yearning to harness the power of their actions and steer their lives toward a more fulfilling trajectory. This realization anchored me in the belief that we must actively cultivate our thoughts, nurturing those that spark action and dismissing those that ensnare us in inaction. But the struggle is real. Integrating these newfound actions into our life when entrenched in old thought patterns can be daunting. It is no simple task, yet I had witnessed the power of this cycle unfold before my eyes. I could not let fear retake the helm. My journey became one of resistance against old narratives, recognizing that every moment offered a pivotal choice: to affirm or to deny the woven fabric of our intentions and actions. As I leaned further into this realization, the prospect of negative spirals twisted my insides. Would fear hold me back, or would I take the leap into an uncertain but hopeful tomorrow? The answer lay in the strength of that thought-action feedback loop, a sacred dance that could propel me toward a future I had long since dreamed. Small actions that build upward momentum. Imagine standing at the foot of a vast mountain. Your goal is the peak, yet the path ahead is obscured by dense fog. You may feel overwhelmed, paralyzed by the enormity of your ambition. But what if I told you that you don't need to conquer the mountain in one fell swoop? Instead, every step forward, no matter how minuscule, is a victory worthy of celebration. It is in these small actions that we cultivate the upward momentum needed to embark on our journey. In my own life, I found myself paralyzed by a past filled with missteps and doubt. Every thought whispered that I was unworthy of success, yet deep within me flickered a desire for change. It was the tiniest shifts that began my transformation: a commitment to drink an extra glass of water daily, a promise to wake up 5 minutes earlier to meditate, and the decision to smile at a stranger on my way to work. Of course, these actions felt insignificant then, but they were the seeds that would grow into a lush garden over time. As I meticulously tended to these small acts of self-kindness, I began to notice a change in my world. The small victories I celebrated became stepping stones, elevating my mood and fostering a sense of accomplishment. Each positive action, however trivial, triggered a release of energy, echoing through my thoughts and emotions. And just like that, I was building a momentum that spiraled upward, shaping new beliefs about my capabilities and my worth. Yes, it was slow, almost painfully so at times, but I learned that profound change does not come from grand gestures, but rather through the habitual practice of small, intentional steps. There were days when doubt threatened to erode the fragile structure I was constructing. On those days, I would remind myself of the cumulative power of these small actions, the way they stacked like bricks, forming the strong foundation for something far greater than I had previously believed possible. It is here that the tension emerges, as we must wrestle with the temptation to dismiss these moments as inconsequential, when in reality, they are the catalysts that propel us forward. As I look back, I realize that every step mattered. Picture the scene where I hesitated at a crossroads, wrestling with indecision. In that pivotal moment, I chose to walk an unfamiliar path, signaled to me by the spark of curiosity rather than fear. It was a small action, but it shifted my trajectory. Each choice introduced new possibilities, new people, fresh ideas, paths I never thought to explore. My life unfurled in unforeseen ways. My belief in my potential burgeoned, and alongside it, my capacity for action expanded, creating a robust echo of positive change. As I continued down this path, I found myself resonating with others on a similar journey. The beauty of small actions in a world bent on grandiosity is that they radiate a quiet power. They become the shared language of growth. Fellow travelers began collaborating, exchanging stories of triumphs tucked beneath layers of vulnerability, and with each shared small victory, the collective energy of our communities surged. For we were all building momentum together, a shared spiral lifting us toward the light. Yet, as I stand at this juncture, poised between past fears and future ambitions, I cannot help but feel the tension mount. What if I falter? What if I lose sight of the vision that once ignited me? With every small action comes the haunting question of sustainability. Will the momentum carry me forth, or will it lead to an inevitable stagnation? This is the crucible in which we forge our determination. It forces us to recommit, to be vigilant about the intention behind each step, recognizing that the path to our highest potential is not a straight line but a winding, layered tapestry crafted from both doubt and hope. In the end, perhaps it is not just about how far we ascend, but rather the richness we cultivate along the way with our small, deliberate actions. The cumulative power of these moments becomes our lifeblood, propelling us through despair, illuminating our darkest hours, reminding us of the potency embedded in the simplest acts. After all, it is through these small actions that we lay the groundwork for soaring success, allowing us to break free from the constraints of our past and reach for the endless horizon ahead. How habits anchor your spiral direction. In the intricate dance of our daily lives, habits emerge as steadfast anchors, grounding us on the spiral staircase of our thoughts. They form the framework through which we navigate our choices and behaviors, subtly shaping the very essence of our experience. Each habit, whether constructive or destructive, weaves itself into the fabric of our being, creating patterns that either uplift us or pull us downward. As I reflect on my own journey, I recall the days when my habits resembled whirlwinds, confusing and chaotic, catching me in their unpredictable grasp. It was the routine of early morning meditation and evening reflections that began to carve out a new path, nudging me towards higher ground. These simple daily actions crafted a tapestry of intention, fostering moments of clarity amidst the noise. By embracing such positive habits, I experienced a subtle yet profound shift, nudging my spiral in an upward direction. Yet, as I navigated this transformation, I found that the power of habits lies not only in the creation of new ones, but also in the dismantling of the old. Old habits linger like shadows, often unnoticed until they manifest into compulsions that drag us down into a cycle of despair. I vividly recall the late nights spent indulging in mindless scrolling through social media, a habit that wrapped around me like a heavy curtain, dimming the light of my aspirations. Recognizing this was the first step. Redefining my relationship with these habits was the key to altering my spiral's trajectory. The tension between our choices becomes palpable as we confront these habits, unveils the repeated cycles of comfort and discomfort. Are we anchored in the solid ground of positive actions, or are we adrift in the turbulent waters of self-sabotage? The answer lies in understanding that every small action holds the potential for monumental change. Each decision, whether to rise early or indulge in procrastination, leads us upwards or downwards, impacting not just our thoughts but our overall trajectory in life. Thus, as we peel back the layers of our habitual behavior, we must ask ourselves, what do we truly wish to anchor our spirals in? Will it be the enriching realm of constructive habits that propel us towards our highest potential, or the stagnant pools of negativity that stifle our growth? The path is ours to choose, yet make no mistake, the consequences of these choices foster our realities. In the end, it is the habits we cultivate that will determine whether we ascend toward clarity or descend into chaos, weaving together the fabric of our lives. Chapter 13: The Power of Self-Reflection. Journaling for Insight and Growth. Each page of my journal became a portal, a sanctuary for my thoughts, as I poured out words that would otherwise float aimlessly in my mind. The act of writing transformed abstract feelings into tangible insights, a map leading me through the intricate landscape of my emotions. I learned to confront the shadows that lurked within me, the fears and insecurities that often went unacknowledged. With each stroke of the pen, I found clarity in confusion, and that clarity became the lighting that illuminated my path. At first, my journaling was awkward, fumbling as I navigated the depth of my subconscious. But soon, the rhythm of my thoughts flowed like a river, unearthing memories that crammed into the corners of my mind. Emotions that had once overwhelmed me like tidal waves now became waves I could navigate with the skill of a seasoned sailor. I recorded moments of joy that uplifted my spirit, as well as the sorrow that weighed heavy in my heart, crafting a narrative that was intricately tied to every facet of my existence. As time passed, I began to notice patterns emerge in my writing. My fears, once faceless and nebulous, took form in the pages, and confronting them was far less daunting than I had imagined. The act of journaling became more than just a reflection. It was a catalyst for transformation. Questions arose that challenged my beliefs, illuminated my motivations, and urged me toward growth. But with insight came discomfort, as I wrestled with truths I had long avoided. the fear of change, the denial of unmet aspirations, the suffocating grip of self-doubt. What unsettled me most was how my words could uncover layers I thought were buried. Each entry revealed deeper reflections, unraveling the very foundations of my identity. I felt a growing tension, an impending realization, or perhaps a reckoning, gnawing at my insides. Journaling was no longer a passive exploration. It demanded action, change, and the courage to face the unknown futures that awaited me. I found myself standing on the precipice of emotional evolution, where the next step could lead to liberation or leave me entangled in the web of my fears. With every page I turned, I grappled with these tensions. The possibility that I could emerge a different person clashed with the comfort of my familiar patterns. It was a slow dance between insight and resistance, each entry prying open wounds and revealing the potential for healing. As I delved deeper, I prepared myself for the culmination of these reflections, a moment that could either ignite the fire of growth within me or choke it out with hesitation. In pursuing the truth, would I embrace who I needed to become, or would I cling to the safety of who I had always been? Revisiting your beliefs and adjusting as you grow. As I stared at the blank page in my journal, a familiar wave of self-doubt washed over me. It was as if my mind was in a constant tug-of-war, battling the beliefs I'd held for so long. Reflecting on those thoughts, I recognized how deeply ingrained they had become, each one a tie to my past that shaped my present. But in the stillness of that moment, I felt a powerful urge to revisit and reassess these beliefs. Were they truly my own, or had they been imposed upon me by the world around me? I began to write down the beliefs that dictated my life choices. Some felt like old friends, warm and comforting. Others felt like shackles, cold and restrictive. I questioned each one. The belief that I wasn't good enough. Where did it originated? From a teacher's offhand comment? A forgettable moment that echoed in my mind for years? It dawned on me that many of the beliefs I held were mere shadows, inflated due to my own insecurities and fears. As I continued to peel back the layers, I noticed a shift occurring within me. Each belief I challenged became an opportunity for growth, an invitation to redefine who I was and who I wanted to be. I embraced the discomfort of reevaluating my convictions, knowing that with each adjustment, I was sculpting a version of myself that aligned more closely with my true potential. Yet, confusion lingered in the back of my mind. How would I know when I had revisited and adjusted enough? When would I feel ready to take the leap into this uncharted territory of self? And therein lay the tension. I was on the cusp of a profound transformation, yet the question remained. Could I truly let go of the past in pursuit of a future that felt authentically mine? Case studies of sustained upward spirals. Sustained upward spirals can feel elusive, but they are incredibly powerful when realized. From the outside, they may seem like mere coincidences or strokes of luck, but the truth lies deep within the tapestry of self-reflection and conscious thought. I want to share a few remarkable case studies, people who transformed their lives through the potency of insight and intention. Take Jessica, for example. Once a corporate lawyer, she found herself entrenched in a career that sapped her energy and joy. The long hours and high stakes left her feeling inadequate and overwhelmed, caught in a loop of self-doubt. Yet, one day, while flipping through a journal from her college days, she rediscovered her passion for writing. In that moment, something shifted. Instead of resigning herself to a fate she loathed, she began to reflect deeply on what truly mattered to her. This act of self-reflection ignited a spark of hope and possibility. Jessica started penning her thoughts, and gradually, that turned into a novel. Each word cultivated an uplifting mental environment that propelled her further and further away from her previous despair. Then there's David, whose descent into a dark place began during his teenage years. Addiction and unhealthy relationships clouded his life until a transformative incident forced him to confront his reality. Instead of spiraling deeper, he chose to reach out for support. Engaging in open dialogues during group therapy sessions allowed him to peel back the layers of his psyche. It was self-reflection in action, with every shared story creating a web of connections that uplifted not just him, but all in the circle. Through the power of vulnerability, David learned not just to escape his past, but to thrive from it, cultivating a life based on authenticity and meaningful relationships. Lastly, consider the story of Maya, who embarked on her journey during a family crisis that left her feeling lost and alone. Rather than allowing that trauma to consume her, she committed to a daily practice of gratitude. Every evening, she would jot down 3 things that brought her joy that day, however small. Initially, it felt forced, the act a chore more than a remedy. But as weeks turned to months, those moments of reflection blossomed into genuine appreciation for her life. Each grateful thought soared higher, creating ripples of positivity in her relationships and work. Maya's world transformed as she shifted her lens from scarcity to abundance, building a momentum that encapsulated a sustained upward spiral. As we delve deeper into these narratives, a consistent theme emerges: the profound impact of self-reflection and the courage to challenge one's own narrative. It's a reminder that while life presents us with myriad circumstances, the true power lies in how we respond and, ultimately, how we choose to evolve. But the journey is rarely without tension. Soon, we must confront the realities of sustaining these upward spirals. With every step up, there comes the threat of backsliding, a whisper of doubt that might compel us to retreat. As we learn to navigate this intricate dance between ascension and descent, we find that the most significant transformations often require us to stare our fears and vulnerabilities directly in the face. Chapter 14: Building a Resilient Mindset. How to handle setbacks without spiraling down. Life is filled with unexpected twists, and often the harshest of these turns is when we face a setback. Setbacks can feel like the ground has shifted beneath us, leaving us scrambling for balance. In the midst of such chaos, it's easy to spiral into a cycle of negativity, feeling as though we are drowning under the weight of our thoughts. But what if I told you that setbacks, instead of signaling defeat, can actually be gateways to resilience? How we react to these challenges shapes not only our mindset, but the trajectory of our lives. The first step in handling a setback is acknowledging the emotional impact it has on you. There's no shame in feeling disheartened or frustrated. These feelings are part of being human. Instead of slapping a mask of positivity over pain, I learned to sit in my discomfort, to really feel it without judgment. In those moments, I found that I could observe my thoughts without becoming entangled in them. It was here, in the silence of acknowledgement, that I began to reframe my circumstances. Each setback became less of a gaping hole in my path and more of a hurdle to overcome. The key was in choosing not to let it define me. But awareness alone is not enough. I had to cultivate resilience actively. That meant taking a step back and identifying what led to the setback in the first place. Was it an external circumstance beyond my control? Or perhaps it was a series of choices that led me there. Understanding the why behind the setback allowed me to pivot my focus to constructive action. I started setting small, achievable goals in response to the situation at hand. Even if I stumbled along the way, every small victory was a reminder that I was still moving forward. In this process, I channeled the energy of my setbacks into action, creating a feedback loop of intention and growth. True resilience, however, flourishes in community. Sharing my experiences with others, hearing their stories, and drawing strength from their support became my lifeline during turbulent times. You see, we are not meant to navigate life's storms alone. The connections we cultivate can act as anchors, grounding us when we are tempted to drift into despair. By leaning on my community, I found not only comfort but also perspective, the realization that setbacks are universal. With each shared experience, we created a tapestry of collective resilience, reminding one another that it is not the setbacks that define us, but rather how we choose to respond to them. As I delved deeper into this practice, I encountered a paradox. Every setback held the potential for profound transformation. With every misstep, I learned more about myself, my values, and what I truly desired out of life. That's the beauty of resilience. It reshapes our paths, pushing us to emerge stronger and wiser. Yet, the process demands vigilance, an awareness of the shadows that lurk when despair beckons to come back. It's easy to slip into a spiral of self-doubt and negativity, to feel as if we are spiraling down into an abyss where hope feels lost. This is the moment of tension, the critical juncture that demands we choose, to stand firm or to yield to the gravitational pull of our thoughts. In closing, I recognize that setbacks are not the end of the line. They are merely divergences on the journey of life. It is our response to these setbacks that shapes our resilience and colors the fabric of our experiences. We hold the power to transform setbacks into stepping stones, to learn from them, and to rise again. The path is fraught with challenge, yet within each challenge lies the opportunity to grow. And as I stood at that precipice of choice, balancing on the edge of despair and determination, I made a promise to myself. I would not let a single setback define me, but rather fuel my ascent. The importance of community and support systems. In moments of hardship, the weight of solitude can be unbearable, like carrying a boulder up a steep hill. It's in these challenging times that we truly understand the value of community and support systems. I've come to realize that resilience is not just an internal battle, it's a collective effort woven through the threads of connection, understanding, and shared experiences. Community acts as a safety net, providing the support and encouragement needed to reclaim our strength. Take my friend Maya, for instance. She faced overwhelming challenges, feeling as though she was adrift at sea, battling waves of anxiety and self-doubt. It was during one of our small gatherings, a simple tea party with friends, that she found the anchor she desperately needed. Surrounded by love and shared stories of struggle, she realized she wasn't alone. Every woman present had her own story of hardship, and together, they formed a tapestry of connection. In that moment, Maya learned that community could offer solace, hold her accountable, and inspire her to rise above her struggles. As we navigate the complexities of life, it becomes evident that support systems are more than just networks, they are lifelines. They remind us of our shared humanity and reflect the strength that comes through collaboration and understanding. When we reach out to others, we cultivate a fertile ground for resilience. But there is an underlying tension that simmers beneath the surface, a fear of vulnerability. How do we allow others into our lives without fearing judgment? How do we trust that our openness will not lead to more pain? This is the paradox of community, and yet it is only in addressing these fears that we can truly step into the light of resilience. As the stories of each person we share our lives with unfold, we witness the intricate dance of hope and healing. When confronted with adversity, it's the whispers of encouragement from our community that often resonate loudest. In these moments, the previously insurmountable barriers begin to dissolve, revealing the potential for growth and transformation. However, one must be careful as not every community functions as a beacon of support. Sometimes there are detractors hidden in plain sight, those who relish in negativity and unwittingly can sink us deeper into despair. Finding the right community, one that nurtures rather than depletes, becomes an essential journey. Each connection we forge adds layers to our resilience, inviting us to lean into the discomfort of vulnerability and embrace the power of collective healing. In the end, it is this delicate balance that fuels our strength, encouraging us to rise stronger together. And as I reflect on my own path, I am reminded that we are always more powerful as a united front, ready to face the storms of life hand in hand. Stories of resilience in the face of adversity. It was in the small hours of the morning when Claire sat across the coffee shop table, the weight of her reality crashing down like the relentless rain outside. She had lost her job, the one she had invested so much of her identity in, and the world felt as if it would swallow her whole. Yet, as I watched her fingers trace the rim of her coffee cup, I remembered the stories I had heard about resilience, stories that illuminated the capacity to rise from the ashes of despair. One tale floated to the surface of my mind, that of Sam, a man who had faced a relentless string of misfortunes, job loss, divorce, and a battle with illness that seemed insurmountable. Instead of allowing himself to be consumed by negative thoughts, Sam crafted a lifeline woven from the remnants of hope. He took up volunteering at a local shelter, where he discovered that even in his own darkness, he had the power to effect change. Each person he helped became a reminder of the resilience that thrived in shared experiences of suffering. As Claire shared her struggles, I felt the familiar tug of emotions threatening to drown me in the heaviness of her situation. Yet, there was a glimmer of something profound in her voice, akin to the spark Sam had embraced. It was the courage to admit vulnerability, the acceptance of pain, and most importantly, the decision to take the next step, however small it might be. In the quiet corners of her heart, I sensed that she had the potential to rise, just as Sam had, carving her path through adversity with fierce determination. Then she paused, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I want to be strong," Claire whispered, her voice barely above the din of the bustling cafe. "But it's so hard to see the light." I could feel the weight of her words settling between us, thick with both sorrow and the quiet promise of change. It was a turning point, a moment where resilience began to unfurl its wings, ready to take flight even amidst the storm that raged around her. That day in the coffee shop became a turning point for both of us. I could almost hear the echoes of Sam's story as Claire reached the precipice of her own. It became clear that resilience was not only the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it head-on. We talked about daring to embrace discomfort and the strength that might be found in vulnerability. It resonated with her, igniting a flicker of hope in her eyes. And so began Claire's journey, one step at a time. Fueled by new techniques, she learned about reframing her thoughts and pursuing small, actionable goals. Each small victory chipped away at the edifice of despair that had enveloped her. With every new day, she chose to step toward the light, aligning herself closer to the stories of resilience that had inspired her transformation. As her story intertwined with Sam's, I realized that each narrative of resilience creates a tapestry of hope for others to draw upon. Their echoes reverberated through the hearts of many others who faced similar trials. And just when I thought her journey might reach a peaceful plateau, the storm would roar back, testing her newfound courage in ways she had yet to fathom. But I knew, like Sam, the true test of resilience was not in avoiding adversity, but in the choice to rise stronger, renew hope, and reclaim purpose, no matter how daunting the path ahead seemed. Chapter 15. Becoming the Architect of Your Spiral. Designing Your Thought Environment. As I sat in my favorite armchair, surrounded by the comforting scent of lavender and old books, I began to contemplate the invisible architecture of my mind. Each thought fluttered like a butterfly, delicate and ephemeral, yet when grouped together, they formed intricate patterns that dictated my emotional landscape. It was as if I were crafting an entire universe within myself, where every idea and sentiment shaped not only who I was, but who I was becoming. The gentle hum of the outside world faded away, allowing me to dive deeper into the labyrinth of my thoughts. For so long, my thought environment had been cluttered and chaotic, a whirlwind of self-doubt, criticism, and fear. It was suffocating, engulfing me in its dark embrace. I realized that designing my thought environment was akin to a gardener tending to her plants. The seeds of positivity needed to be sown, while the weeds of negativity had to be uprooted with determination. What if, instead of constantly battling this inner turmoil, I could consciously curate an atmosphere conducive to growth, creativity, and serenity? The very thought electrified my senses and sparked a flame of hope within me. As I began to visualize this transformation, I identified the elements essential in creating a sanctuary of thought. First, I recognized the importance of space, physical and mental. Minimizing distractions allowed me to focus on nurturing clarity. Next came the introduction of rituals, a meditative practice to ground my thoughts, alongside morning affirmations to establish a positive tone for the day that lay ahead. The more I dissected my environment, the more I noticed the intersections of thoughts, emotions, and actions weaving together like a rich tapestry, each thread holding equal weight in the grand design of my life. The tension, however, was palpable. Each step toward this new consciousness unveiled the countless barriers built over time: fear of the unknown, reluctance to change, and the ever-looming specter of self-judgment that hissed quietly, "You'll never make it." But with each rising wave of uncertainty, I felt a counterwave of resilience bubbling beneath the surface, urging me to trust in this newfound journey of self-discovery. My thought environment was evolving, but the shadows of past beliefs threatened to creep back in, eager to reclaim their territory. And so, as I contemplated the blueprints of my new mental landscape, a flicker of doubt ignited in the corners of my mind. Was I truly ready to redesign the fabric of my consciousness? The battle against ingrained patterns that had ruled my psyche for so long was ferocious. Each moment was like walking a tightrope, balancing between what I had always known and the promise of a brighter, more compassionate existence. Time felt suspended as I realized this was more than redesigning. It was a reclamation of power, a journey into the depths of my own potential, where the stakes couldn't be higher. Aligning thoughts, emotions, and actions with purpose. As I sit in the quiet sanctuary of my study, I often find myself pondering the intricate dance between our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Each thread we weave in our minds creates a tapestry of experience that signifies our purpose in life. In countless moments of reflection, I've come to understand that intentional alignment of these elements is not just a lofty ideal. It is, in fact, the foundation upon which a fulfilling life is built. But what does this alignment truly mean? It means becoming acutely aware of the thoughts we nurture and allowing them to guide our emotions toward purposeful actions. When I felt the weight of self-doubt creep in, I learned to challenge those thoughts, to flip them on their heads and see them for what they are, fleeting whispers of insecurity. In that moment, I could choose differently, cultivating thoughts rooted in strength and possibility. When I allowed this shift, my emotions transformed. Anger simmered down to understanding, and fear melted into courage. The transformation did not come easily. I remember walking through my day, stumbling over feelings of inadequacy and frustration. But every time I tuned into the undercurrents of my emotions, I discovered they were signals guiding me towards my deeper purpose. It became evident that our emotions, when harnessed properly, are not mere reactions. They are powerful indicators of alignment, suggesting where our thoughts might be leading us astray or propelling us toward growth. The journey within is punctuated by pivotal moments of realization. Each time I engaged in purposeful action, however small, I felt the alignment narrow, like the tightening of a well-worn belt. High-quality thoughts fueled my decisions, which in turn groomed my emotions, painting a more vivid picture of who I wanted to become. I recall the distinct moment when I volunteered at a community kitchen, driven by my desire to create connection rather than out of obligation. It was then that I felt it, an exhilarating rush that defined the essence of purpose. Yet, there were days of struggle where the spiral seemed to want to pull me back into chaos. Dissonance began to creep in as I had to reconcile the ideals I was building against the weight of the world outside my mind. Did I have the strength to continue? Could I uphold this alignment while faced with external pressures? Deep within me, a voice alerted me. This is the test of resilience, the moment when one's resolve must align with the clarity of purpose. As I navigated these turbulent waters, I delved deeper, drawing upon resources within me I hadn't recognized before. I began crafting affirmations, compiling mantra-like phrases that echoed my commitments, whispering the purpose I aimed to fulfill. Each morning, I looked into the mirror, facing my own reflection, and spoke words of encouragement that I had once only dreamt of believing. My thoughts matter, my emotions guide me, and my actions will resonate with my purpose. The words struck me as strange at first, but gradually they instilled an unwavering strength within my being. Alignment became a savory dance, each step deliberate and mindful. I crafted moments of stillness to feel my emotions rise and fall, learning to ride the waves with grace. By embracing both the highs and lows, I tapped into an authentic energy, one that recognized the interconnectedness of my mental, emotional, and physical realms. It was liberating to know that I was no longer a passive participant in my life. I was an architect, shaping the very foundations upon which I built my existence. As I neared the end of this exploration, I realized that the ultimate tension lay not in the act of aligning thoughts, emotions, and actions, but in the boldness required to evaluate whether my current trajectory aligned with my true purpose. Would I continue to rise, or would I falter when faced with the inevitable challenges ahead? The answer hung delicately in the balance, offering both hope and uncertainty. In that moment of introspection, I understood life's greatest revelations often emerge through the lens of tension and release, guiding us to think critically, feel deeply, and act decisively. The legacy of high-quality thoughts and actions. As I stood on the precipice of my own understanding, staring into the depths of what my life had become, I reflected on the multitude of thoughts that had crossed my mind, each one a tiny architect within the larger design of my existence. With each day, I had the power to build or to dismantle, to create a legacy of clarity or chaos. Today, it felt like I had finally assumed that role with intention, understanding the gravity of my choices. It was as though I could see the threads connecting each thought to an action, each action, in turn, weaving into a series of consequences that rippled across the canvas of my life. Realizations washed over me. The high-quality thoughts that I nurtured were not just fleeting moments of positivity, but rather building blocks that laid the foundation for a future steeped in possibility. They were seeds planted with care, watered with intention, destined to bloom in a garden lush with achievement and fulfillment. But with this empowerment also came a daunting truth. Every thought I dismissed, every moment I opted for simplicity instead of clarity, also shaped my spiral. I recalled stories of those whose lives were shattered by neglecting the quality of their thoughts. People who had spiraled so far down that their actions became mere reactions, shaped by circumstances rather than a conscious choice. And while I perceived their journeys as cautionary tales, I felt an undercurrent of urgency. If I could shift the narrative within me, I could perhaps extend that legacy beyond my own life. What if the high-quality thoughts I cultivated today could inspire others to do the same? As the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, I leaned into that possibility. With every high-quality thought, I could pave a path not only for my own ascendance, but create a beacon for others to follow. The present moment was rich with potential, a fertile ground where each deliberate action could amplify my internal message, one of growth, resilience, and hope. As I began to visualize my legacy, I felt tension build within me, almost palpable, like an elastic band stretched to its limits. What would it mean to choose intentionally, to fully embrace this process? Could I truly transform not just my fate, but the collective future by objecting to negativity with the resolute strength of my actions? And then, the weight of that question settled upon me. The incorporation of high-quality thoughts was not simply a personal endeavor. If successful, I could awaken others to the possibility that they too held the power to shape their own narratives. I sensed a shift within as I imagined the ripples of influence my choices could create, instilling confidence in someone else's capacity to rise above their own limitations. Yet deep inside me, a familiar fear lingered, urging caution. What if my efforts fell flat? What if I failed to inspire? The tension intensified with every heartbeat, echoing the conflict between aspiration and fear, between a desire for impact and the paralyzing weight of self-doubt. I realized that to embrace my role as the architect of my spiral, I would need to confront and transcend those looming shadows of fear and uncertainty. As I committed to this internal revolution, the dawn of a new legacy beckoned on the horizon, illuminated by the clarity of high-quality thoughts and purposeful actions. Conclusion: your infinite spiral. Liam had always felt trapped in the web of his own negative thoughts. He was drowning in a sea of self-doubt, endlessly replaying past failures in his mind, each replay adding weight to his burden. For years, he lived an uninspired life, spiraling downward into despair, believing that happiness was a privilege he could never attain. But one crisp autumn morning, as the leaves turned gold and crimson, he stumbled upon a dog-eared book in an old thrift store. This book. It opened with the analogy of a spiral staircase, a concept that resonated deep within him. As he read about the power of thoughts and their intimate connection to emotions and actions, an ember of hope flickered in his heart. With every page, Liam began to absorb the wisdom of not just understanding, but actively reshaping his thoughts. He took it as a silent promise to himself. He would not allow the gravity of negativity to pull him down any longer. He started practicing mindfulness, embracing a newfound awareness that made him realize how often he spiraled into destructive thinking. Each small effort became a step up that staircase, challenging the negative beliefs that had anchored him. With determination, he began to cultivate gratitude, even for the smallest joys. He started journaling his thoughts, reflecting on his day, and mindfully acknowledging both successes and struggles. The transformation wasn't instantaneous. There were days when old patterns tugged at him, threatening to pull him back into desolation. But with the principles of the book guiding him, he learned to pause, to breathe, and to recognize these moments not as failures, but as opportunities for growth. One fateful afternoon, standing at the foot of that same spiral staircase, he decided to volunteer at a local community center. It was there, surrounded by camaraderie and collective energy, that Liam witnessed the power of shared resilience. His experiences with others battling similar challenges deepened his resolve and compassion. He became a beacon of hope for those around him, amplifying the uplifting energy he was now dedicated to cultivate within himself. Through conversation, he shared the lessons learned from the book. A cycle began, where his narrative of transformation inspired others to shift their mindset and take charge of their spirals. In sharing his story, Liam discovered a community of support that not only propelled his journey upward, but also solidified his belief in the infinite potential we all possess to ascend to our highest selves. With each upward step, he embraced the philosophy that we are indeed the architects of our spirals, constantly designing, refining, and building a reality aligned with our deepest aspirations. As he stood at the top of the staircase looking down at where he once was, he felt an exhilarating rush of energy. His past no longer defined him. It was a chapter of wisdom in his journey toward an extraordinary life. This was his story of transformation, and it was only the beginning. So I urge you, dear reader, take control of your spiral. The journey upward begins with a single thought. You possess the power to rise above the chains of negativity and embrace the light of possibility. Your infinite spiral awaits. As I stood on the precipice of change, the swirling chaos of my thoughts echoed around me, a cacophony of self-doubt, fear, and regret. But in that moment of darkness, an ember of hope flickered within. I realized that everyone possesses the innate ability to shatter the chains of negativity gripping their minds. All that is required is the audacity to believe in their own potential. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, every individual has within them the flame of transformation. The mind is a powerful architect, capable of constructing palaces of positivity or prisons of despair. It was this truth that finally pierced through the thick fog of my downward spiral. No one is immune to the cycles of negativity. It touches us all. But it is not the fall that defines us. It is the rise that follows. With each passing day, I began to weave a tapestry of intention, threading together moments of gratitude and glimpses of possibility. I discovered that simply choosing to breathe deeply could disrupt the spiral. Each inhalation became a defiance of the weight dragging me down. The more I practiced, the deeper I delved into the truth that lies within us all. The power to break free is not a gift bestowed upon the fortunate, but a birthright shared universally. As I ascended, I felt the chains of self-limitation break away, one by one, allowing a flurry of potential to emerge like a wildflower through cracked concrete. It became clear that change isn't a monumental leap, but a series of small, deliberate steps. The power of this realization surged within me, fueling my commitment to help others recognize the light imbued in their own spirits, urging them to awaken and embrace their ascension. Now, as I stand in this newfound clarity, I see a herd of souls ready to rise, waiting for the spark of belief to ignite their flight. We are all uncharted territories waiting to be explored. Every thought has the potential to illuminate the path upward. Remember, the path is not always easy, but it definitely does exist, twisting and climbing in a dance of resilience and hope. Now is the time for you to grab hold of your spiral and steer it in the direction of your highest self. Take control of your spiral. The journey upward begins with a single thought. As I reflect on the myriad journeys we've traversed together in this book, one profound truth remains. The power to shape our destiny resides within each of us, nestled in the very fabric of our thoughts. The countless paths we explored speak to this reality, echoing like whispers in a vast canyon, reminding us of the choices that lie ahead. Every moment is a crossroads, every thought a step towards your future. Imagine your thoughts as threads in a grand tapestry, interwoven with possibilities. With each conscious decision to nurture positivity and hope, you elevate not only your own journey, but also the lives around you. The stories of Emily, Mark, Sarah, and others illuminate this truth. They teach us that transformation is not an abstract concept, but an attainable reality. But the path is not always easy. The gravitational pull of negativity, with its deceptive promises of safety and familiarity, can ensnare even the most diligent of us. Yet, here lies the crux. The ability to rise above is a choice, waiting patiently for your recognition. So I urge you, as you stand at the brink of your own spiral, take the reins. Take control of your spiral. Feel the weight of those words as they resonate within you. Remember, the journey upward begins with a single thought, a gentle reminder that you possess the power to navigate through chaos toward clarity. Each thought you embrace can spark a chain reaction, igniting your potential for joy, resilience, and purpose. The upward spiral awaits. Will you take your first step now?